Good afternoon. Hi, Anna. Anna Sisneff. PF Cutters, good afternoon to you. Anaya, good afternoon. Helen Faria Trutman, good afternoon to you. Bongs up, Central Network, greetings. That's all right. It happens. Gillan Jackson, good afternoon. Ruth Trude, good afternoon to you. Christopher Cuffey, Donna Walcott. Fitzroy Bailey, greetings. Kathy Ann Best, good afternoon. My trip was quite productive, Kathy Ann. Thank you so much. Arlene Lewis, Deborah Duranti, Anon 0001. Adanse Tridi Hupo Hungry, good afternoon. Bida Felix, Natalie F, Annette Moses, greetings. Sedena Koshi, Sabrina Bruce, Merlene Pantin, good afternoon to you all. Patricia Street, Jennifer Ashby Okuli. Good afternoon to His Excellency, the President of Pleasantville, Nigel O'Connor. Teresa Conliffe, good afternoon, Teresa. Teresa, these people make you come all the way from Canada for the Independence Parade. We need to tell you, it cancelled. They should buy a return flight, Teresa. These fools. I know every year you come to enjoy your thing. At least you got a little pan. Yeah, shameless, these people. Kimberly Ford. Good afternoon to Lucille Charles Ford. And Kestra. Hi, Kestra. Rukmin Gangadina. Hi, Rukmin. No, that was the problem there. Just now, let me see. That's what's going on there. All right, that's what's going on there. Oh, that's the problem. All right, just give me 1 second. Okay, that's what happened there. That explains that. Okay. Dish Rubin, hi Dish. I expect nothing different from these people, Sedena. Sure, good afternoon. All right, so I was on the wrong profile on Facebook. So, yeah, so I had to come out and go back in because I've seen some faces, profile pics that I don't normally see. So the folks on Facebook, yeah, good afternoon to you. Right, so a little late this afternoon. We had this morning the First Peoples had their church service, Santa Rosa RC Church, and then they had the procession around a part of Arima, and then we had lunch afterwards. So I didn't plan to stay for the procession and all of that, but some of my parliamentary colleagues were there. The member for Arima, political leader Penny Beckles, Dr. Amory Brown, and Nian Gatsby Dolly. So, yeah, so we had that this morning, and it went a little later than I had hoped. So, yeah, but I had to jump on today because, yeah. So, Panama was very nice, I must say. It's a beautiful country, and I look forward to going back next year, May. That's when we would be having our conference. So we went to do a little bit of sightseeing and the like, and it was certainly worth it. We could learn a lot from Panama when it comes to tourism. In fact, the tour guide that we had for the few days that we were there was actually a Trini who lives in Panama. Went there in 2011, saw the opportunities that present itself for tourism promotion. Came back to Trinidad, wound up his business, sold everything and moved back to Panama. And today he has a very thriving tourism business. And he indicated to me that he would have had some conversations with our current Minister of Tourism, who would have directed him to the Parliamentary Secretary for the Ministry of Tourism. And now, not much has come out of that, I'm not surprised, but the guy has some pretty good ideas on how he can promote Trinidad, not just to Panama, but some of the other countries to which he's affiliated. But when you have a visionless government and a minister who only seems to be interested in going to Africa and India, well, says a lot. Deborah Duranti, Natalie Gonzalez, good afternoon. Davi Arjun Singh, good afternoon to you. Sherwin Humphrey, good afternoon. Yes, folks, so let me just jump right into it. So many things to touch on, right? But I think I see this here. So a lot of developments over the course of this last week. And I've come to the conclusion that I think perhaps the last 10 years, the population find the last 10 years was maybe too boring. Yeah, because in just about 3.5 months, the amount of drama that we have had doesn't compare, well, the last 10 years doesn't compare to that at all. Where did I see this story? Right, just give me one sec, folks. Let me just find this thing here, right? So many things I see, so many things. So the saga continues with respect to the state of emergency. Now we see ministers' lives are under threat. Bounty put out to the tune of about $2.1 to $2.8 million on the heads of 3 ministers, namely the Minister of Defense, Wayne Sturge, the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, Khadija Amin, and also the Minister of Public Utilities, Barry Padarath. And so we are here, well, it's because of the issue with URP and CPEP and people who were benefiting from that, gangsters and so on, who are now upset. Where is this thing? So, folks, let me just get this here. Let me see this. See, where is it? All right. Let me pull this up from here then. Right, so the first story that grabbed my attention while I was away. PM says, ask Sturge, who is the UNC connected attorney behind alleged death threat? Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar is directing all questions to Defense Minister Wayne Sturge on whether or not a recent senior state board appointee is the attorney with close ties to the government, who is allegedly among those making death threats to him. The Prime Minister gave this response yesterday when asked by Guardian Media to comment on the claim after Opposition Chief Whip Marvin Gonzalez called on her to name the attorney behind the alleged threat to Sturge. This centered on Sturge's reported resistance to comply with demands for jobs at the constituency and state level. After the April 28th general election, it's understood Sturge has visited Togo Sangui Grande constituency office only twice on official constituency days due to threats of protests outside the office and certain confrontations that occurred where his security detail had to act. He has, however, been at the office at varying times, and his support staff has continued working at the office. So, Mr. Sturge, who has been elected as a member of parliament for Toko Sangigrandi since the 28th of April, 3.5, almost 4 months now, 1 week shy of 4 months, we are now being told that he has only been to his constituency office twice for office day. That is a constituency that, as we know, has a lot of issues. That is a constituency that has a lot of persons who need help from the state, and they've only been able to see the MP twice on official office day. As somebody who has office day more or less every week, save and except for if I'm out of the country, I could tell you, on average, every week, I see about maybe between 15 to 20 persons, most of whom come looking for work, looking for some sort of assistance, the majority of them. And we would have seen during the election campaign all the things that was taking place in Toko Sangigrandi, and they were complaining and all of that. And now they've only been able to see the MP, according to this article, twice. Who else should they go to? On Monday, Justice Minister Devish Maharaj and Homeland Security Minister Roger Alexander said the threat to Sturge was very real. Prime Minister Prasad Bisesa subsequently said minor security adjustments were made on a temporary basis to protect some ministers. This followed alleged threats on the lives of the Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, Khadija Amin, Public Utilities Minister Barry Padarath, as well as Unemployment Relief Program Manager Firoz Khan, after the government began restructuring social programs. However, on Wednesday, Maharaj and Alexander urged reporters to get answers from Sturge himself on when and what threats had been made to him, to what security agency he reported it, and other details. After Gonzalez on Tuesday called out Prasad Bisesa to speak on the identity of the UNC-connected attorney, she replied to the Guardian media saying, "Please ask Minister Sturge." Yesterday, another top UNC government minister referred the Guardian media to Sturge for a response on whether all information on potential risks were disclosed to the party hierarchy and decision makers before Sturge's appointment as minister, or when he said he didn't want to be a minister. The latter was stated by Sturge on a UNC platform at a campaign meeting 2 weeks before the election. Sturge did not respond to questions on the issues. All calls and messages to his phone for answers and details have gone unanswered since word of the alleged death threat broke. On Monday, Maharaj said the cabinet was set to meet soon on the issue of the affairs of ministers over their safety and that of their families. It was expected that it would have been at yesterday's cabinet meeting. However, a post-cabinet media briefing was not held yesterday. No reason was given, but government sources denied it was not held because officials wanted to duck answering questions on the Sturge issue. It was noted that no media briefing was held on the previous Tuesday. Back then, Prasad Bisesa addressed a function at the Diplomatic Center involving TSTT's Future Leaders internship program. Yeah, so as I said, apparently the population felt the last 10 years was too boring. And no minister name wasn't getting called up in no Satabacanal. Nobody wanted to kill the prime minister. Nobody wanted to kill any ministers. Nobody wanted to blow up the attorney general office with a rocket launcher. None of these things was happening. So it was just ministers going to work doing their thing. It was just too boring. So my concern with this is, right? So the PM ask Sturge, who is the head of the government? Who hired Wayne Sturge? Who made Wayne Sturge a minister, despite the fact that he said he was not interested in being a minister? He did not want to be a minister. Who insisted that he should be a minister? He didn't make himself a minister. And that's my problem with the UNC. They love to say, when the PNM was in office under Keith Rowley, the buck stops with the prime minister. The fish is rotten from the head, not the tail. All that they were talking about, right? Now we are reading about Prime Minister is asked a question, and she's saying, ask Minister Sturge, so that he could comment and he could tell you, don't ask me nothing. Remember one time when Pandey say, don't ask me where I get my jockey shorts. So she's saying, don't ask me no question, ask Sturge, right? So in future, ask him, nobody to come and ask me anything. And is this what we can expect going forward? any allegation is made against any minister, that the Prime Minister will simply deflect and say, ask the minister, don't ask me. Madam, you are the head of government, all right? This man is your defense minister, not even a low-level functionary or some by-the-way ministry, as you know, because you have those that are considered to be high-profile ministries and those that are just considered to be, there's a high-profile ministry, a new ministry that you created. Prior to the 3rd of May, there was no Ministry of Defense. You created a position and gave it to this man, despite the fact he said he wanted no ministry. And now, find himself in some problems, claims that his life and that of his family is under threat. And you are saying, ask him about it. Why is his life and that of his family under threat? People don't just come just to threaten you. Mr. Sturge has been in public life for years. He was, in fact, he was a senator, a UNC senator for one period of time. And then after they demitted office and so on. But Mr. Sturge is a well-known attorney in Trinidad and Tobago, has represented a variety of clients, some of whom I'm sure have very colorful criminal pasts. And we've never heard of him and his family being threatened before. All of a sudden, Mr. Sturge finds himself and his family under threat, as well as Khadija Amin and Barry Pyrak. And of course, we are hearing that it's because it is linked to URP and CPEP and the government's decision to restructure these programs and their persons who are displeased. But you see, you all never said that you were going to do that prior to, in the lead up to the general election. That was not part of your campaign. Let me get this here. Maybe if you had said that to the people, the outcome of the election might have been different. But it was any port for a storm. So let me get this here. Where is it? That's not. Right. Yeah. 2.8 million on the head of just something in particular I'm looking for. Just no. Right. So it was any port for a storm, and Oli was just saying anything, and you got votes. And so now we are being told is because you all decide to restructure. First of all, we don't have any idea what this restructure is going to look like, when it is going to happen. People who were involved in these programs, the most vulnerable, were told, it could be 6 months, it could be more. Just wait. Whenever is whenever. Right? And just let me see. There's a particular thing. Where this thing is, there's so much. Okay, right, we'll find it just now. Yeah, so was any port for a storm? And Kamala said it herself. I pleaded for you all, where she said her people, UNC supporters, are upset with her, upset with the government because they expected to replace PNM ghosts with UNC ghosts. And I told you all, I think I mentioned, when just after the election, the URP office that is based on the highway just before Piarco Lights there. Several of my constituents work there. A couple of persons who are on the executive of the constituency work there, and would have told me that within days of the general election, or within days of the government being sworn in, you had a lot of certain UNC operatives coming, descending on the office there, making demands, letting people know, well, we in charge now, and come to shake up things, and we taking over. And people were calling me. I mean, I could play voice notes for you all right now that I got from some of the people working there, some of whom were on my campaign, who have been working in URP for years, and said that, what is going on? People, these UNC people just come in here playing big and bad and laying down the law and talking about, oh, they're going to get rid of this one and get rid of that one, and they're in charge and they bring in their people and they have the list, and asking me if I could reach out to who was then thought to be the minister for URP, Julian John. So I have it here, I could play it for you all. But some people might recognize the voices, and I don't want to get anybody in trouble. But it was sent to me, and I was asked to call Julie, to write to Julie John and find out from her what's going on and to let her know what it is taking place, because people are concerned. And every week people kept calling me and telling me, well, they think they're going to lose their job because they see all of these UNC people coming here. They know some of these guys to be thugs from the constituency and other constituencies, persons who were around who used to be hanging out with Andy Roberts between 2010 to 2015 when he was the member of parliament from Alabama, and they're seeing some of these faces reappear. I don't know what they wanted me to do, so to contact the minister, and people wanted to find out. So based on that, we come to the conclusion or the assumption that these persons had a legitimate expectation that they were going to be in charge. At that time, I think there was, in the early aftermath of the election, there was some talk that URP was under Mr. Roberts and that it was subsequently moved from under him and placed under Khadija Amin, because when these persons started to show up and Kamala realized was water more than flour, this is what I am told. It was moved from under him to Khadija Amin. Right? And then I would have read for you all the communique that was sent out by Khadija Amin to the URP offices, indicating to them that they had to cease all hirings because the number of persons whose names or the number of names that had been submitted subsequent to the general election on April 28 had already crossed over 3,000 persons. These were names that were just being brought in by UNC people, right? And in the face of that, Khadija Amin sent out this memo. I have it here just now. Give me 1 second. Let me pull it out. I have it saved. Let me read it again. So let me get it here. Where is it? Okay, no, not that. Right. Memorandum from the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government to the Program Manager, URP, dated May 27, 2025. Further to the information contained in the Trinidad and Tobago Gazette number 81 of 2025, where the URP program was assigned to the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government with effect from May 12, 2025. I am directed by the Honorable Minister of Rural Development and Local Government to inform you to cease all new registrations, all hiring, and all issuing of contracts. In addition, persons currently on 10 days are to continue until further notice. No new recruitment is to take place. Please be guided accordingly. All right? And I am told that this came out, and at the point in time, at the 12th of May, when this was sent out, well, it says, the date on this is the 27th of May, but it says that the communique with effect from the 12th of May, right? That over 3,000 names had been submitted of UNC people submitted. So they had already started the process of wanting to create new ghosts or to replace the so-called PNM ghosts with UNC ghosts. And you all heard Kamala last week or week before in the campaign on the Monday Night Forum stating, you can do that. You all want us to replace one set of ghosts with our ghosts. Okay? Now, what I'm looking for, let me get this. I know I saved this thing, I don't know why I can't find it. Just know. Yes, no. I think this is it. 2.8 million hit on 3 ministers. There's one part that I wanted, right? Sources say 3 main players are said to be at the heart of plotting this attack. Among them, a Trinidadian with Colombian ties, wanted for a 2024 murder of 35-year-old Kevin Lucas, alias Shrek, and his girlfriend Shireen Salandi, 37, who were found in a Hyundai Elantra that was left idling along Bodo Highway in Sangre Grande in mid-August 2024. He later fled the country and is hiding out in Colombia. Sources say that this wanted man, closely associated with a well-known Toco Sangre Grande contractor and another contractor from the Santa Cruz area, had pumped close to $20 million into the 2025 UNC election campaign with the promised payback of sweetheart contracts through the flagship state programs. Intelligence sources told the Express that the well-known contractor from Toco Sangre Grande was also a major financier of the resistance gang, and one of his relatives served as the gang's point man in that area. Sources say that the Santa Cruz contractor has also been affiliated with a senior TTDF officer for several years, and questions have often been raised about their perceived relationship and alleged illicit activities. The matter is not recent. This has been happening since May of this year, and it only started to escalate in the last few months with attempts to especially intimidate Minister Sturgeon. But everyone connected with these programs by extension are also being targeted, said a senior police officer. And since the escalation of threats, the security details of these ministers have been increased. Underworld sources in the loop about the planned attack said a Jamaican hitman was recently brought in to assist the other criminals in pursuing their targets. Another aspect of the URP-CPEP fallout is an apparent contract dispute between the syndicate and a prison gang boss. Now, what does Wayne Sturge have to do with CPEP and URP? He's the Minister of Defense. He's not affiliated in any way with CPEP and URP. So to try to link CPEP and URP with this hit on Mr. Sturge's head, to my mind, is playing smart with foolishness, right? Because they figure what, the whole country's stupid? So let me just lump it in now. Sturge, or you say Khadija and Barry too. So it's 3 ministers. So people will focus on 3 ministers and not try to siphon and determine, well, why is it that, okay, Khadija, and we can understand Khadija and Barry associated with CPEP and URP. What is Sturge's situation? So here it is that we are reading that certain contractors, or allegedly with links to certain criminal elements, pumped some $20 million into the UNC campaign in 2025. $20 million, right? Throughout the election campaign, we were asking the question, not just to us, plenty of people were asking, where the UNC getting all this money from? We were hearing activists and influencers on social media were receiving $40,000 to use their platform to try and influence people. And all of a sudden, we saw influencers who never used to talk politics before, who used to just come and they talk about their personal lives, what's happening in their personal life, and the little tit for tat they have with another influencer and so on. All of a sudden, they became political and started jamming the PNM and talking about yellow is the code and all of that, corroborating. Now, we would have first heard about this $40,000 payout that was being offered to influencers when one individual who is a known blogger on social media, Facebook and the like, would have indicated that he was part of some Telegram group where the offer was made, right? So if depending on how many followers you have, would have determined how much money you would have been able to get, and they would have been paying you on a weekly basis, either 5,000 or 8,000 per week, depending on how many views your post would have gotten, right? And then we heard that, and then some of these influencers came out and said, so what? So what if I get paid? So the question was being asked, where the UNC getting all this money from? As I told you last week, the UNC outspent the PNM by millions and millions of dollars. Everywhere you go, you see all them young boys and them have on their UNC, the blue and yellow UNC jerseys. They with UNC flag. When UNC win, everybody win. We saw all the ads, even before the election was called. The UNC, we heard booked out spots on radio and TV for months ahead. This is since November last year. We were hearing that they book out spots. Kamala was complaining that the UNC book out these spots long time, and now that the election bell is called, it has been rung, and the PNM trying to get these spots that were already booked, and certain media houses and so on trying to gerrymander the thing so that they could give space to the PNM and all of that, and they wanted to look at legal action and what legal recourse they had because of contractual obligations on these. Since November last year, they book out spots. Where is money coming from? A party that for years and still up to now does not own its own home. They've been renting, knocking from pillar to post like the littlest hobo for years. The political leaders say, well, it's better to rent than to own and all that kind of nonsense. We have been hearing how they've been taxing the councillors and taxing the members of parliament and so on, whatever percentage of the salary, and every month to be able to assist the party to pay rent and to maintain the upkeep of their rented headquarters. And all of a sudden, election come around and millions and millions and millions of dollars being spent. Right? We've seen all these meetings that they were keeping, all these jerseys that they were giving out, and you name it. And questions are being asked, where all this money coming from? And many of us kept telling you all of these people who putting out this money, they didn't have that money sit down there and say, well, we waited for election just to give it out to the UNC because we love the UNC so much and we believe they will bring good governance to the country and we will give them this money. No, these people would have made these monies out of whatever business transactions, whatever contracts they would have gotten, that some of them would have fought for, and that is money for them to enjoy. So when they made that investment into the UNC campaign, there was a legitimate expectation that should the UNC win, they would get back their money. And the UNC won. And they find it taken too long for them to start to benefit. They would have identified where this payment should come from. So when we hear, and again, I told you all as well, I had heard that some $15 million was spent just in Toko Sangre Grande alone. Now we're hearing some $20 million was put out just in that constituency. And for the Prime Minister to now come and say, well, ask Sturge, to me is an insult and an affront to every single citizen of this country. But of course, we know her supporters will find nothing wrong with that. But if it had been the other way around and Keith Rowley had said something like that, they would have raked him over the coals. But Prasad Bisesa said it. That's the goddess. She could say whatever and they will condone. They will condone. Now we're seeing they're doing certain things in government, and the only defense that the UNC has is, well, when the PNM do it, so what's wrong with that? The PNM did it. When the PNM did it, you all had an issue with it. When the PNM did it, you all complained. When the PNM did it, you all cussed out Rowley and the rest of the PNM. I know they corrupt and they this and that. And now you have certain things happening under the UNC, and you all came in, oh, well, nothing wrong with that because the PNM did it. Well, again, and I say, if there's nothing wrong with it now, then why did you put out the PNM? Why? Because it's only a problem if it happened under the PNM, because you all don't support the PNM, but under the UNC, you all defend every little thing, right? Now, at General Council last week, the political leader of the People's National Movement, Penny Beckles, during her remarks as political leader, would have spoken to the issue of, the party's finances, where we are and so on and the like. Mention would also have been made about the fact that we have a couple candidates who still have some outstanding expenses from the election and the like, right? We didn't spend the kind of money that the UNC spent. As I told you all, the only thing that most of us would have gotten from the party would have been the posters that you would have seen put up on the light poles and so on. But we had to fund the rest of our campaign. So when you receive jerseys and you get flag and all these kind of things, it was the individual campaigns that had to raise that, whether they had fundraisers, whether people dip into their own pocket to put out money to fund their campaign and the like, whether they were able to get assistance perhaps from constituents and so on. But it is a widely held view that the PNM didn't spend as much money as the UNC. And some people say, well, what's going on there, boy? The PNM was in government and how they spend and how they did this and how they did that. So Penny Beckles has been the political leader of the People's National Movement for just under 2 months, right? Just under 2 months. And she has, in that period of time, sought to acquaint herself with the state of the party's finances, right? Whether we are in a good place, whether there is work to be done, and there is work to be done. In fact, next month we will be having the annual September Fair, which is perhaps the PNM's largest fundraising event. It is a gala event, that is dinner that is held at the Hyatt every year, and I think at a cost of $1,500 per plate. And that event will be coming off again next month. So, as you would see, all the Marcos who was watching Balize House for the last how many months, all of a sudden they're watching Balize House again, because they say, hey, where they get all that money from? 50 million, 100 million, 200 million, all kind of figures we're hearing. depending on what day of the week it is and what is the weather status. Figures going up. And Roberts at one time pull up outside on one of the side streets to take a video, to do a live from his car. To say, look at Balize House going up and where they get all that money from and all of that kind of. Well, as you see, Balize House still ain't finished yet. The companion building still under construction. Still has some way to go. Right? Still has some way to go. Construction has halted because it requires money to finish. All the things they accuse the PNM of thief and who thief and all kind of. Right. They stopped talk that talk. At one time, Munilal said, when the UNC comes back into office, they are going to turn Balize House into a home for vagrants because, according to him, this is his words, Balize House was always a place for vagrants. Rudal Munilal said that, referring to PNM supporters as vagrants. Right? Balize House, according to him, was always a place for vagrants, and they're going to turn it into a home for vagrants. So the current political leader of the PNM has sought to acquaint herself with the party's finances, and as I mentioned, to inquire persons, candidates who may still have outstanding expenses from the election campaign. Kamla Persad-Bissessar has been the political leader of the UNC since the 24th of January 2010. Over 15 years, she has been the political leader of the UNC. So she should be intimately aware of the party's finances. Intimately aware. Right? So it is inconceivable to believe that she would not have been aware as to how her party was funded during the general election campaign, because she must know. 15 years you're there, 10 years as opposition leader. You know how the party was paying rent. I think in that 10 years they would have moved house after they were evicted from Rienzi complex, and then they were based at some upstairs a bar, and then they were by some funeral home, and then they moved to Shogunas where they are now. So you have staff has to be paid. So the political leader, the leader of the party, must be aware, okay, where are we in terms of finances? How are we meeting our commitments? Because if we can't meet our commitments, it's a reflection of me. So she must have known how much money they have in their coffers. So if the general public, who had no idea how much money the UNC had in their coffers, but was still asking, where the UNC getting all this money from to fund this election campaign, the political leader had to be very much aware as to where this money was coming from. So to hear that $20 million was spent in Toko Sangre Grande, for her to say, or for them to suggest that she didn't know where that money came from, to say it's playing smart with foolishness is an understatement. Because that wasn't the only constituency they spent a lot of money in. In practically every one of the marginal constituencies, Tunapuna, they spent real money in Tunapuna. To be able to arrest Tunapuna from Esmondford, they spent plenty millions in Tunapuna. In St. Joseph, they spent a lot of money in St. Joseph, right? Plenty money spent in St. Joseph to arrest that seat from Terence Dale Singh. They spent plenty money in San Fernando West, Paris. They spent plenty money there too. They spent plenty money in, what's this other constituency, boy? La Joqueta Talparo. Plenty money spent there too. So you're trying to tell me that they went through an entire election cycle and the political leader, Kamla Persad-Bissessar, never once asked, where all this money coming from? Because you're seeing you go to a meeting, everybody in these jerseys weren't cheap. She wasn't asking that. She didn't hear about the talk about these influencers being paid all of this money. No talk about that. She didn't hear that. So she cannot wash her hands like Pontius Pilate. I wash my hands of it. One ask Sturge, two ask me. Is on he? No, madam. No. You see this talk about your heart is clean and your heart is pure and your hands clean? Not this time. Not this time. And so she cannot divorce herself from this situation with Mr. Sturge. Mr. Sturge said he did not want to be a minister. You insisted that he should be a minister and created a ministry for him. Did you ever ask him why he didn't want to be a minister? I am certain she would have read or heard about that when he made that statement. So when you offered him the position of Minister of Defense, what did he tell you? Given the fact that he previously publicly said he didn't want a ministry, he didn't want to be a minister, he just wanted to be an ordinary MP. What did you tell him? Did you have that conversation with him, and did he explain to you why he didn't want a ministry? Did it take a lot for you to convince him to change his mind, or was it just, simple, easy? Just asking the question. And since she said, ask Sturge, so is it that you are not interested? Have you spoken to Mr. Sturge on these claims? Since it has come into the public domain and you tell the media to go and ask him, have you, Madam Prime Minister, spoken to Mr. Sturge on this matter? What has he said to you if you had that conversation? Are you satisfied with the explanation that he has given to you as to why his life would possibly be under threat? Because we saw a video very soon after the election, Mr. Sturge went into his constituency and he was talking and telling the people about the issue of getting them jobs and the like, and he was hoping to get them jobs. And for some of the people, I think, in the defense force and all of these different things. And he spoke about the challenges and the like. Did you inquire from Mr. Sturge how much money was spent in his campaign? Did you inquire from your campaign manager, Mr. Feroz Khan, who is now the head of URP, the URP manager? Did you inquire from him how much money was spent? Because I don't know how you all do it, but I could tell you in the PNM, Rohan Sinanan, who was the campaign manager, overall campaign manager, he was the man controlling the finances. So assuming you all follow a similar model, Mr. Khan should be able to tell you how much money was spent that the party would have been able to arrange to be spent in these constituencies. Now, of course, the candidates themselves would have been able to raise money aside. Now, given this claim that some $20 million was spent on that campaign in Tokosangi Grande, that is at odds with what Mr. Sturge would have put out on his declaration to the EBC, because you're required to fill out a form. There was a deadline date sometime in June. All candidates had to fill out, indicating how much money that they would have spent on their campaign, and you had to submit that to the EBC. So in light of this information coming out here now and this claim, is the EBC going to look into that? Because I sure the EBC ain't stupid. They know the average candidate going to spend more. I think the limit is supposed to be $50,000. It's something that the EBC really needs to look at, or not the EBC, but the government or whoever to change, because maybe $50,000 where you could have spent how much years ago, but it is a difficult thing and difficult. So sometimes you have to keep within that. You have to get people to donate stuff. Tell them I don't want no money. The campaign needs so and so. We need some jerseys. Could you purchase those jerseys for us? We're having an event. Could you donate water? Could you donate refreshments or so on? Right. Don't send no money for the campaign. We have a limit, a cap, but at least that's what my campaign did. Right? So you could donate, but we could only keep within a certain limit, right? So fortunately, there were I was able to get some of my colleagues who I work with, and family members and stuff who would have donated and so on to the campaign when we had certain events. Persons would offer to cook meals rather than us catering and the like. And if we did cater, it's probably to give maybe some member of the campaign who does cooking and so on, get them a little end nut to help them out, and they would have given us reasonable prices and say, all right, well, I'll do this and the like. But anyway, so in light of this, Prasad Bisasa is saying to the media, well, go and ask Sturge, because what comes to mind is that you don't want to say anything, and then it's at odds with whatever Mr. Sturge may say later on down the road. So we need to get our story straight. So you know what? Rather than me say something and then the media come back, and when they finally get on to Sturge and then he say X, Y, and Z, and it doesn't add up with what you say, the media will come back and say, but the Prime Minister says so, and Sturge says so. So what's the real story? So you know what? Better thing to do is hush your mouth. Stay quiet. Tell them go and ask Sturge so they can't come back and say she said anything. But you all didn't have 10 years, you all didn't have that. And it's the same thing 2010 to 2015, practically every week, every bloody week was a different bacchanal. Yeah? To keep all on the edge of your seat. Bold and Beautiful, Young and Restless, Santa Barbara, these serials had nothing on the UNC. 2010 to 2015, and now 2025 to 2030 again. They have nothing on them. Just keeping you all on the edge of your seats. One set of bacchanal, and it's only a set of distractions. So let's see what we could do. So that was last week's menu item. So how do we try to deflect from that? Well, we have the situation with the US sending their warships and so on to the region, and it's just on our doorstep, just outside there. It seemed to be like they're lining up the artillery to start something with Venezuela. And so the goodly lady decides to do what? Put out a communique stating that she is not about doing what CARICOM is inclined to do, right? Which is to present a united front, and we put out one statement stating that this is our position. She's not about that, okay? While everybody else is not, while they would have, some other people would have put out a statement, a general statement, but not declaring support for either side. Miss Lady say, well, here, well, you see me? I take inside it, to hell with them. I need a distraction from this bacchanal with bounty on ministers' heads just 3.5 months into office, with people wanting to look up minister story coming out that millions of dollars was put out into the campaign by certain persons with links to alleged gangsters, and now I can't deal with that. So let me create a distraction. So let me come and make a declaration that I support in one side, right? And I put emphatically that if requests are made for the use of Trinidad and Tobago as an area from which a launch pad, well, we have no problem in offering the US that, right? Sure, no problem with that. So that is going to be the talking point for this week, this statement that the goodly lady put out. And all of a sudden, 9-day wonder, we forget about this $20 million that is alleged to have been spent on the UNC campaign by a couple of persons who, we are being told, had links to certain criminal elements. Love to say is the PNM, and all the PNM have links. And remember, go back to 2002 and 2003 and tell me about how Mr. Manning had some meeting with community leaders, gangsters who he labeled as community leaders and so on. And that says the PNM has links to the underworld. But there has been no claims of any underworld figures contributing to the PNM's election campaign. No claims of anybody who has any links with any gangsters and anybody involved in crime making any contribution or donation to the PNM campaign. But we're not surprised about hearing that, because it was by any means necessary to get into office. No plan, but when we get into office, we will figure it out. And that is what you all are seeing on a daily basis. We just go in with the flow, and as the day comes, you will see how it goes. Still having problems getting US in the bank. Still getting only 200 US. In fact, the country's foreign reserves has fallen, despite the fact that they said they had the answer to fix it and to get it going. Prices at the pump remain the same, despite the fact that they told you, well, put us in office and we will reduce the gas price, because in both the Duen say he increased the price of gas once, twice, and then riot yet, so he will increase it a third time. But don't worry, put us in office and we love you, we care for you. You've had leaders before me, leaders after me, but none will love you as I love you, and I will reduce the price of fuel. Almost 4 months later, the price of fuel at the pump remains the same. Telecom put us in office, Rowley only offering you 4 and 5%, but we will give you 10. Almost 4 months later, what have you gotten? You get 10? No. You get 5? No. 4? No. 1? No. Zokes, zilch, nada. What you have gotten is keep faith. Keep the faith. Hold strain. God's willing. We go find the money. But if you have some, please give it to us because we need it. That is what you have gotten. You have gotten the president of the PSA, right? Going to a consultation, one of the crime consultations or the budget consultations, and asking and begging basically the ministers to please make sure provisions are made in the upcoming budget for the 10%. As if she don't understand how this thing works. She has been with the PSA for how long? She don't understand how this works? So what? You expect the ministers to work out, okay, 10%, this is how much it will cost recurrent expenditure, this is how much it will cost back pay, and just make preparations for that in the budget? So when they make an allocation for 10%, And then negotiations come and you say, well, yeah, but we say we starting at 10, and we didn't say we want 10. We want 14 or 15. Where the allocation coming for the rest? They tell you, well, all right, hold 10 now and we'll give you the next 4 next year. Playing smart with foolishness again, as if Ms. Thomas doesn't understand how the negotiation process works. It was offered 4, was offered 5, 4 for one period, 5 for another period. Or let's say Olean won that. And especially since Rowley take 47, definitely we don't want 4 and we don't want 5. Same thing with 86, you all were offered 6%. No, we don't want that. Keep all your 6%. Put out where the sun don't shine. You all voted out the PNM and you brought in the NARA. What you get? You got 6? No. You got a 10. You got minus 10. And you lost cost of living allowance and other things too. Yeah? Because you take chin up. But apparently Chinese don't learn. You say those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. But like we are glutton for punishment. Well, not we. Some people in Trinidad and Tobago are gluttons for punishment. You didn't learn in 86, you didn't learn in 95, you didn't learn in 2010, you come back again in 2025. Because you're missing the punishment now. You say, it's been a while. 10 years we didn't get punished. Yeah. You know, bondage, yeah, like licks. Let's come back again. Cost of living gone down? The prices in the grocery went down in the last 4 months, as they promised. Yeah, it's because of the PNM prices high in the grocery. It's because of the PNM, the food import bill is $7 billion. Yeah, it's the PNM. Well, they've been in office for almost 4 months. And what the supporters say, well, they haven't been in office long enough. They need more time. Give them time. 2030 will come and the supporters will still be saying the same thing. They will change the tune to, well, 5 years was not enough. We need another 5. And they give them another 5, and then they will say, well, 10 wasn't enough because the PNM damaged the country so bad. The UNC need 40 years to be able to fix. Right? But they had all the answers, all the solutions to every problem. Put us in office. The PNM clueless. They lack the political will to fix the country. They wreck the country. They destroy the economy. They collapse the economy. What they do in that period of time? Nothing. Right? But the Express newspaper, they decided to give Arnold Roberts a talking point. When the story broke about the court case involving the former board of Sport TT, and the board was found to be negligent with respect to fiduciary responsibility, and they were ordered, each board member was ordered to pay a certain sum of money and so on. Condemnation of the live sport program, contrary to the things that Mr. Roberts had been saying all the time, that there was nothing wrong with the program and everything was just lies and made up by the PNM. When he was saying that outcome in that case was an indictment against him, the government of which he was a part, and everybody who claimed that live sport was above board. But we didn't need that court case for us to come to that conclusion because we already knew the truth. Where was he? No doubles and coffee, no Douglas politics. He went into hibernation, right? All of us, he went quiet. Let blow over a 9-day wonder because the Trinidad and Tobago citizens in no time at all, they go forget about that and something else going to happen and we move on. And so said, so done. So the Express decided to give him a lifeline. So he did, I think, probably Friday or something. So I just saw it yesterday. He did a doubles and coffee, right? Talking about the Express editorial where they're claiming or demanding that Dr. Rowley should apologize because of that issue with Brian Lara and the cancellation of his contract with B-Mobile as a brand ambassador for B-Mobile. And I think Dr. Rowley would have put out some statement in respect of that. And the claim is that Lara's contract would have ended since 2022 and whatnot and so on. And the Express put out their editorial in which they're calling on Dr. Rowley to apologize. Well, that just made Mr. Roberts' day, his month, his year, his decade, his life. So he decided to come and do a doubles and coffee to praise the Express newspapers, the same newspapers that he has been cussing for years as being PNM and biased and all of that. Now, the shoe is on the other foot, and it seems that the Express, like so many others in society, are lining up to bend the knee and kiss the ring of the current Prime Minister. Everybody, you see them, because they only run in all of the economists and analysts and heads of business associations and so on that they go into for comment on what's happening in the country. They only seem to be finding those who have no issue with anything that's happening in the country. Yeah, that the government is first 100 days went good. Yes, they're on the right foot. Only the Express can't find nobody who has a negative opinion or anybody who has a balanced opinion who will say, well, okay, yes, but. No, everybody is, yes, everything good. Yes, I want to congratulate the government, all of them. Kiss the ring. Kiss the ring. Lining up. Right? So he happy. Oh, if the Express had done this back in 2015, then we would not have had to suffer under Rowley and the PNM, and that the outcome of that election would have been different and all of that. As if so the Express was only publishing lies. So everything that happened with live sport was a lie. Come back with the nonsense about Emailgate and all that foolishness again. Right? Come back with that rubbish. How many years later they're still living in Emailgate? When the final report from the deputy DPP clearly stated in the conclusion paragraph, we can neither 31 emails can neither be denied nor can they be corroborated. Right? Cannot be denied. We cannot say that they are fake, but we cannot say that they are genuine either. But when you read the body of the report that was put out by the deputy DPP, because you recall, because the DPP's name was mentioned in the emails, he was not a part of that. He could not be a part of that probe. So his deputy, Joan Honoré Paul, who had delivered the final report, clearly stated, we can neither confirm nor deny the authenticity of the emails. Nothing in the body of the report. In fact, most of what the body of the report spoke to and said pointed more to the emails being genuine than being fake. Because Google, contrary to what UNC operatives were saying, some of them in government today, that Google said the emails were fake. Google never said that. What did Google say? That the period of time between when the emails were allegedly sent and when the request for the production order was sent to Google, that 9 month period, that the account holders could have deleted the emails and Google was not able to retrieve it. That's what they said. They never said that the emails were fake and that they were never sent. Microsoft said something similar. The judge who issued the warrant to the TTPS to be able to get the information from Google and Microsoft, in order for him to issue that warrant, he had to be convinced that a crime may have taken place. And based on the evidence that was presented to him by the TTPS and other authorities, the judge, who they said was a hardliner, was satisfied that a crime may have been committed, that these emails may have in fact been genuine, and he issued the warrant based on that. He was convinced. But you had the then commissioner of police talking nonsense about even a 5-year-old child could have watched that and read them emails and know that it was fake. But a judge who has been sitting on the bench for years, right? Not in a 2x4, a judge who deals with all of these serious matters, he was satisfied based on the evidence presented to him that maybe these emails could very well be genuine, and he issued the warrant. But this clown, this bald-headed lout, want to come back and talk about emails and emails was fake and 30-something or 20-something or the 30-something emails was fake and all of that. The only person who said the emails were fake was then Commissioner of Police Gary Griffith. Nobody else. Nobody else said that. Well, other than the UNC operatives. But the evidence did not bear that out. Right? But he come back with that. So all of a sudden he loved the Express now. So the Express put out an editorial calling on Dr. Rowley to apologize, but they didn't see it fit to issue an editorial calling on the Prime Minister or calling out the Prime Minister for this laissez-faire, blasé, don't care damn response. Ask Stooge. If it had been Dr. Rowley, you would have heard a whole article about dereliction of duty and the Prime Minister is the head of the government and he was the one who hired and he's responsible and he's supposed to this and he's supposed to that. But they gave Prasad Bisasa a free pass. I don't know if they figure she's still in a honeymoon period. And so, you don't beat up on her yet now, too early. Yeah, too early. So let me just bypass that and go after Rowley. Yeah, go after Rowley over something so simple that has no impact on national security whatsoever. So Dr. Rowley made a statement based on what was told to him or whatever is the context of the statement that he made. This is so earth-shattering. Based on what Rowley said was so earth-shattering and it has such dire implications on the country that we must put out an editorial calling on him to apologize. But a Prime Minister is telling you in the face of information coming out that at least one of her ministers, her Minister of Defense, who should be front and center right now, given what is happening in the Gulf, right? Front and center, where it is that we have all of this heavy artillery and machinery from the US coming our way. And your Minister of Defense
Under whose portfolio, who is the man supposed to be speaking to that issue, aside from the Minister of Foreign Affairs, is nowhere to be found, nowhere to be seen or heard. And you have information in the public domain that money may have gone into his campaign that would have come from ill-gotten gains, persons who are involved in criminal activity, the same criminal activity that you're claiming now you're trying to clamp down on with the state of emergency. And your commissioner of police talking about he wants the criminals to know that Trinidad and Tobago is no longer a safe haven. So when was it a safe haven, sir? When? Before you became commissioner? So weren't you a part of the TTPS for 20-something years? So for the 20-something years prior when you were a member of the TTPS and holding high rank, not that of commissioner, but you still had a senior position, it was a safe haven. So you weren't working doing your job as a police officer, senior police officer. Then it's only now that you assume the headship of the police service. That I wonder if these people think before they talk sometimes. You were part of the police hierarchy. You had a senior position. So what were you doing prior to? You made no contribution to. So none of the work that you did sent a message to the criminal element that Trinidad and Tobago is not a safe haven. It's only now. Is that not an indictment on your superiors, those who were there before you? But maybe you want to stay in your lane because that was above your pay grade. So you're just doing your work and whatever. Now you're in charge all of a sudden. Senior police officer and some senior prison officer or somebody so get charged a couple of days ago. They see all the UNC supporters praising that. Yes, finally, with the deal, they're going after the big fish. What utter rubbish. What utter rubbish. A senior prison officer and a police officer get charged and they say, yeah, they're going after the big fish. And that the PNM lack the political will. But you all are the same people who say that the PNM, it was the PNM that locked up Ula. Ula was the tip top, the head of the TTPS. You don't get no higher than that. And let's say the PNM locked her up, the PNM charged her. Well, not charged, but the PNM arrested her. The PNM government detained her. But now you all singing praises for a low-level functionary in comparison to that. They say, well, yeah, get this new commissioner working, boy, do any work, yeah. Right. Okay. All right, I hear you all. Now we see you all too, right? The hypocrisy that comes from that party. They're so desperate to cling to anything. Because for the last 3.5, almost 4 months, the government has given them absolutely nothing of substance for them to rate up. Nothing of substance for them to celebrate. Oh, yeah, the PNM do this, and the PNM, and the PNM, and the PNM. These are the same people who for 10 years accused the last administration of playing the blame game and only want to blame Kamala, and blame the UNC, blame the UNC, blame the UNC. You all come in office now, and the same thing that you condemn is the same thing all you're doing. It's because of the PNM this, and because of the PNM that, and because of the PNM that. So that's what we expect to hear for the next 5 years. Blame the PNM. Blame Rowley. So it was wrong when Rowley and them was doing it, but now you're all in office. So for 5 years, we could expect, yeah, it's Rowley and them mash up the economy, and Rowley and because of Rowley and them the crime situation, and because of Rowley and the PNM this, and so what's the point? It's better you just leave the PNM there. They came into office because they said they had the solutions to fix all, to clean up whatever mess the PNM left. But you have made no strides. Nothing has been done. All the things, the long grocery list that you gave us of the problems in the country, we have seen no plan, even if you've done nothing yet, because you could still say it's early days. You can't even articulate a plan as to how you're going to treat with it. You all fire the central bank governor and bring an ex-man who was a retiree, a geriatric from the nether regions of the political cemetery. As I keep saying, not where they have the bodies or corpses, the part where it have fossils, oil, and gas. That's to tell you. You all dig him up from the nether regions of the political cemetery and bring him back, dust him up, put him on in a new suit, and put him in central bank, paying him $175,000 plus a month to do what? Has the forex situation improved? What does he bring to the table? His last excursion as a public official didn't end well. For all the money that he was paid to leave First Citizens Bank, $11.625 million, to leave for Citizens to become Minister of Finance, and then for the 3 years that he was Minister of Finance, earning over $60,000 a month plus what other perks. We got 3 years of consistent budget deficits, and he ended off his tenure as Minister of Finance by leaving the country in recession. 4 consecutive quarters of negative growth. 4. So what value did we get for that $11.625 million? What value did we get for the monies that he earned as Minister of Finance and all the perks that he enjoyed? What value? Tell me one thing this country benefited from. He gave one piece of sage advice, which was that in order for us to remove the term budget deficits from the country's financial lexicon, two things needed to be done. You needed to reduce the subsidies, and you needed to implement property tax. The two things that the PNM was seeking to do. He, who was paid $11.625 million to become Minister of Finance, told the country that. In 2012, 2013, he said that. Property tax, reduce the subsidies. How do you reduce the subsidies? By increasing the price at the pumps. And he did just that. Increase the price of premium from $4 to $5.75. One shot. Tell her, hey, take that. Umbrella up your key packs with no grease. He didn't give it to you in increments like Imbud did. Imbud say hold 50 cents and come back in 6 months, or I take another 50 cents, hold 49 cents. No, he said take the full 175 in your key packs and hush your mouth. And they applauded that. Right? They didn't talk, they stopped talking about that. But Imbud say he increased it once and he increased it twice. Even if you look at the 3 increases that Imbud gave you and you didn't riot yet, didn't add up to the 1 increase that Mr. Hawaii gave you. Right? It didn't add up. It was less than. That's why they wanted to kill Imbud for that. Because he wicked, he increased it 3 times. But his 3 increases was with less than the 1 increase that man gave you. Today, he's sitting nice in the tower, Central Bank Tower, with a beautiful view of the Gulf. Rock back in a nice big leather chair. While his predecessor is suing the state for almost $10 million for wrongful dismissal. Right? And in the 2 months or so that he's been there, what has the country benefited? He benefit. His bank account even better. Looking nice. Making the rich richer. Meanwhile, the poor CPAP and URP and forestry workers catching the nin. Counting down the days till school open, and how many of them children will not be going to school on the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, because they're still scrambling to see what books they could get, what they could put together. They have that headache. He don't have that headache because his children grown, and I'm sure his grandchildren well taken care of. And if they're not, he more than in a position to help them out. Thanks to who? The UNC. The 2 largest amounts of money that this man will ever earn in his life came as a result of UNC governments. Thanks to who? PNM supporters who decided that they couldn't hold their nose and go to the polls and vote for the PNM because Rowley got 47%. And he offered them 4 and 5. And they didn't like the way Stuart Young became the prime minister. So we couldn't vote for that. And so today we find ourselves where we are. With all of this Bacchanal and lackery. Yeah? And it's only been almost 4 months. Still have just about 5 years to go. These people aren't inclined to call any early elections. All right? None. So many other things to touch on. Let me touch on this. Where is it? So I'm going to get this here.
Trinidad and Tobago. I was curious to know why the PNM was in such an uproar over what they know to be true, which is the PNM in the last 10 years has put on a PNM rally in place of the Independence Day. And here's why. Why has the Independence Day parade never been in Central or South? And why after this year, under credible intelligence evidence that it was cancelled by the government of the day, by Kamala Persad-Bissessar, why this uproar? So you're not naked. I had to make my inquiries because all my people is PNM. So I want Penelope Beckles, Marvin Gonzalez, Faris Elwari, Amy Brown to tell us, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, did the PNM plan to have their operatives in the Independence Day parade, would it have been held? Boo the UNC and boo Kamala Persad-Bissessar like they did in Woodford Square? Was that the plan? I want you all to answer that. Added to that, Naked and Keyboard all here. PNM, not didn't care about all you. What all you had to say. I don't care. I don't care if TV6 with all you, if 95.5. And you, IMS. That IMS is 95.5. Putting on a Desperados t-shirt. Lavantel Desperados t-shirt. Or taking it off, don't make it a Desperados. I hardly wear Desperados t-shirt. But I was born into Desperados. So you can take off one shirt. If you feel Desperados, people studying you. It's not PNM Desperados. The name of the band, the finest steel band in the world, is Lavantel Desperados. So you could, fire could burn you with that. As for the rest of the PNM, especially the leadership of the PNM, especially the black bourgeoisie of the PNM who like to rile up the rank and file, who know Naked feed them for 5 years when the PNM ain't feed them. Naked feed them. So they can rile them up. From Lavantel to Tinapuna, Naked feed them. What ain't getting our pro, black bourgeoisie, about Akil Chambers, so all the PNM leadership, bugger, rape, kill, and then to add insult to injury, name a street in Diego Martin after the man who buggered the boy and killed the boy, Ken Valley. What ain't getting our pro about that? What ain't got the rank and file to get our pro about that? The PNM leadership. Some of them who sit in the cabinet with Ken Valley. What ain't getting our pro about the Judith Jones report, which stated that those boys, Semi and Daniel, Antonio Francois, were pimped out by people in the PNM leadership. One of them described an ugly, stocky, fat, almost obese Rasta fella, ugly. That's what they describe. I only know that could fit 1 or 2 people in the PNM. What ain't getting our pro with that? All they getting our pro? I don't care what they say. I don't give a rat's ass. When I tell all this something, because I know what I do for my people up on the corridor. And all they asking question what is naked African. I go let my uncles and my answer all that in Lavantel. I go let my mother's side of the family answer all that. And in the meanwhile, as I say, the true rank and file members of the PNM know who is naked. All the black bourgeoisie, African Fade, PNM leadership, naked don't give a rats behind both all here. I watch my language. Friday, let me go and eat a Friday meal with the family here in Lebanon. Love in the house, Trinidad and Tobago. All the time. Happy you want to say love in the house?
Love in the house. Love you.
All the time.
It's always love in the house.
Love in the house, Trinidad and Tobago. All the time.
Right. Okay. Let's see.
Patriotism for them is a parade that they had for years, 10 years, which was in truth and fact a PNM rally for their base in Port of Spain. We're not interested. As I said before in previous videos, when the PNM not in power, you all are rabid dogs. Emphasis on the dogs. Anybody in the UNC who is coward not to let go of PNM employees, I say fire burn all too. Patriotism for them is a...
Well, you all know who that is, right? David Naked. Not UNC Senator, not UNC Opposition Senator David Naked. Let me repeat that. Not UNC Opposition Senator David Naked. That is Parliamentary Secretary David Naked. Parliamentary Secretary for the Ministry of Sport and Youth Affairs, David Naked. Member of the government of Trinidad and Tobago. The government which is supposed to govern for all, not just the people who voted for you. You are the government of Trinidad and Tobago, and therefore, notwithstanding the fact that there were a certain section of the population, the electorate, who didn't support you, as is the norm. Once you are the government, you are required to govern for all. or at least to give the impression that you're governing for all. Those who voted for you, those who didn't, those who are on the fence. Now, I, as a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, and as a tax-paying citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, and I pay a lot of taxes, take full umbrage to Kamala Persad-Bissessar having this man as a member of the government, receiving upwards of $70,000 a month in taxpayers' money, taking to social media to refer to PNM supporters as rabid dogs. And according to him, emphasis on dogs, right? He is a member of the government. There's a difference. When you're in opposition, you can talk your choppy talk. We expect that, right? Because you have no power, you're not responsible for the governance of the country. You contribute from a legislative perspective. But when you're in government, it's a totally different thing. When you have access to state resources and you are advocating, calling for persons who support the PNM to be fired. Because why? Not because they did anything wrong, but because they support the People's National Movement, a party that is opposed to the party that he now supports. Once upon a time, he used to support the PNM, just like his colleague Anil Roberts, who was once a card-holding member of the People's National Movement. But I played that, and I'm going to play something else. You know, when I say I crave your indulgence. So I'm going to play a little something else. So some of you will bear with me, right? It's been a while since I played something from that clown, and I don't really listen to him much, but something came across my feed, and it really riled me up. But you know what to blame for that? All right, we'll come back to that shortly. But I am certain that the Prime Minister, not the leader of the opposition, the Prime Minister must have seen this, because she's no stranger to social media. If she didn't see it, she's heard about it. It is not the first obscene, disrespectful post that this individual who sits as a minister of government and collecting over $70,000 a month of taxpayers' money has done a post where he is attacking supporters of the People's National Movement. Everybody in this country has a right to support who you want politically, right? It's a constitutionally enshrined right to you to support whoever it is that you want. And the government is not supposed to attack you. The government is not supposed to persecute you because you don't support them. They are the stewards of the public purse until 2030, right? Whenever the next election is called, they are the stewards of the public purse. And therefore, they are supposed to. Again, David Nackett took an oath, just like the rest of us, the other 70 of us in the parliament, took an oath without fear or favor, affection or ill will. Without fear or favor, affection or ill will. To do right by all citizens, without fear or favor, malice or ill will. What do you call that? When you are calling on UNC operatives who now hold the reins of power across several state bodies to fire supporters of the PNM simply because they support the PNM. Take bread out of the mouth of people. Take bread from the families of PNM supporters because they don't support the UNC. Is that right? I just ask it. And for a government official, a high government official, parliamentary secretary, just one notch below a minister in the Ministry of War, a full-fledged cabinet minister, to be making these statements, and his political leader, who they always love to praise, has nothing to say about it. She has not admonished him, as far as we know, because he's still doing it. What I just played there for you was not the same clip. It's two different clips that he would have done two separate times. So the fact that he's still doing it is indicative that he has not been admonished by his political leader and his prime minister. And further to that, the first one that I played here, where he was, he in Lebanon. He is in Lebanon. He collecting $70,000+ a month to serve as parliamentary secretary in the Ministry of Sport and Youth Affairs, but he is in Lebanon. 3.5 months after you became minister, not even 3 months, because he wasn't in the first batch. He came after with Philip Alexander and Kama Maraj and these guys. So about 3 months he's been there. And you're on vacation already, sir? Already? How long have you been in Lebanon. So he having lunch with family in Lebanon, showing, hey, you want to say hobby, you want to say, right. Having lunch in Lebanon at the expense of you, taxpayer. Costing you, Mr. PNM and Miss PNM taxpayer. You contributing to that. Right? When you look at your pay slip at the end of the month and you're costing, when you see under PAYE how much money come out. And all the things that you could have done with that. You who's still waiting for your 10% that you voted for. Or your 10% that you didn't vote for the PNM because which caused you not to vote for the PNM. Meanwhile, while you're costing, Rowley get 47 and you only give it 4. You know how much percent he got? He was a UNC senator, opposition senator, as you are well aware. His salary then was probably just around $20,000. Now as a senator still, and as a parliamentary secretary, he making over 70,000. So he got over 200% increase. And over 200% increase because some of you all couldn't bring yourself to vote for the PNM because you find Rowley should not take the pay raise. Okay, maybe you shouldn't have. Maybe you shouldn't have. But that was the straw that broke the camel's back for you. That and how Stuart Chung became prime minister. You just couldn't deal with that. 47 is not, but he cussing you and calling you a rabid dog. You and your family who support the PNM, calling you all rabid dogs, but he enjoying your taxpayers' dollars, making plenty more money than you making. He driving nice car, he have perks, he could buy car with all kind of exemptions. While you stand up on the bus route in the hot sun and in the pouring rain waiting for Maxi, sweating, beads of sweat. You stand up in City Gate waiting for the bus an hour and a half, 2 hours, and he could jump in the back seat of a government vehicle, of a Prado, a Fortuna, right? And driving around nice, chauffeur driven, and watching you crossing the road, waiting, stand up by the traffic light, waiting to cross. And but you see, but them rabid dogs. Yeah, but you see, you all gave him the ability to be able to do that. All of them who didn't want the pay raise. Oh, it's obscene, and now is not the time for that. But they came. All of them got pay raises, and never forget. They got pay raises as senators. They got pay raises as members of the lower house, and now all of them in government. So aside from the salary that they were getting before, they're now getting ministerial salary to the tune of $50-something thousand more per month, between 40-something and $50-something thousand more per month they get in. Right? You think they couldn't wait for the back pay? They couldn't wait till October? But that increase that you all getting now, ministerial salary plus the same salary that you were getting before, but at the increase rate? Plenty more money. But no, they come in the media review and they make allocation to collect the back pay. They couldn't wait. They want every cent. They beat up. Rowley say he want the money and he wanted no. He don't like the money sleeping out. Well, apparently they didn't like the money sleeping out either. They weren't prepared to have the money sleep out for 2, 3, 4 months. No, we want it now. Come in the media review and bring an allocation to pay themselves the back pay for the increase that they didn't want, that they told you we didn't want that. The prime minister come and tell you, no, we had nothing we could do. We cannot reverse it. Well, okay, you can't reverse the pay raise. Well, say, I don't want the back pay. Say you don't want the back pay. Turn it down. No. You come for it. First chance you get. 1 month after you come into office, you make sure you come in the media review and put an allocation to get your back pay. You ain't waiting. I want my money. And bust the throat at 35,000 people who don't have that facility. But then talking about we want to save, and we're saving money with no independence parade, and we're saving money with no fireworks and so on. You want to save money, start with the bloated cabinet. Get rid of people like he and Anil Roberts and Philip Alexander, who feels greatly underutilized, who just go into the ministry every day and sit down. Since they have no work to do, he can afford to jump on a plane and carry his wife and family to Lebanon and sit down in a high-rise apartment and eat lunch in Lebanon while you still chewing your cud because you're waiting for your 10% negotiation to start. That's all you have him there. Going again. We're going again. We get the next one. Going on here. Right. So, What's the title of this one? Rowley finally called out by Express. Penny, control your flock of kobos. Penny, control your flock of kobos. So one calling you all rabid dogs, and another one referring to you PNM supporters who contributed to them being there, referring to you as a flock of kobos. Remember that. I'm not gonna.
Somebody do good.
I want to
say so. If they're doing nonsense, miscreant, a low character individual rely on others to produce and twist the facts and create a situation of falsehood. That is what could have elevated such a miscreant, a low character individual, a scumbucket as a man, as a father, as a husband, as a politician, and as a prime minister, Keith Christopher Rowley. Forget politics, Keith Christopher Rowley is not a man. He's a mama pool. He's a nastiness. He's a scumbucket. When ladies sit down at a dinner next to him, if you happen to be a kind of a good-looking lady, you would feel like you have to go and bathe with blue soap and scrub your skin. He's that kind of individual. He's what men like me, we who grow up as men and operate on a code, call a mama pool man. He could never line what we play cards with because we don't tolerate that kind of thing. You understand? Taking advantage of your ministers or those you are in charge of, taking advantage of their wives and think that is a no. That is not on. Men don't do that. That is Rowley. Forget corruption and forget impropriety and forget lies and forget his integrity in public life act forms and forget his policy and his recusals and his decision to uplift those and enrich the rich. Forget all of that. As a human being, he is an amoeba. He's a slug under your foot in the drain after Cayman Pass in flood waters. That is Rowley. Having said that, I hold in my hand.
That's all I wanted to play for you. As another government minister. He ain't no parliamentary secretary. He's a government minister. One of three in the Ministry of Housing. Making that live, sitting in his office, his ministerial office, paid for by you, the taxpayer. You, Mr. and Miss PNM taxpayer, who he refers to as a flock of kobo. And here are the things that he is saying about a former prime minister. This man is a minister of government. A minister of government. He's no longer an opposition senator. And even then, as an opposition senator, I felt that his presence in the Senate, the upper house, that is supposed to be of a higher ilk, was a disgrace and an affront to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. And Kamala Persad-Bissessar put him there. She put him there and was glad the things he used to say because many times she referenced it on the campaign. And Daniel, well, Daniel said, but I didn't say that, Daniel. And she laughed at that. Apparently, he didn't get the memo that you are now a minister of government. You took an oath, right? You took an oath for all citizens. Dr. Rowley is now an ordinary citizen, a former prime minister. And for you, a government minister put there, like Kamala Persad-Bissessar, who clearly has nothing, because if he had time to sit down and do a live for 15 minutes and 1 second while he is in his office as minister, because then you see the background, you see in the cabinets behind him and so on, he is in his shirt and tie and jacket. So he's at work, using his ministerial office to do a live. Why? Because he has nothing to do. No work. Just like Philip, he is underutilized. But getting paid over $70,000 a month to be underutilized and to sit down in his office while he should be doing the people's work that he's receiving significant compensation and perks for, to spend 15 minutes and 1 second to cuss out Keith Rowley and the PNM. Meanwhile, some of you all who are struggling to make ends meet and pay your bills, you ain't getting that kind of money, right? You working for it, sweating. From the time you reach to work till you leave, you don't have time to do no 15-minute live to cuss out Rowley and the PNM and call Rowley a scumbag and an amoeba and all this kind of thing. He, of all people, want to be calling people scumbag. This low-life low down, bald-headed, filthy, dirty, nasty lout. Was drunk like a fish, round the savannah for carnival last year, don't know himself. Woman, but Anil, it took about 5, she had to call his name about 5 times, and he still didn't really anything wrong. As we say in local parlance, pistoratically drunk as a senator, don't know himself, and then had to come and apologize after for his condition. Keith Rowley has been married to Sharon Rowley for how many years? One wife. One for 30 some odd years. I don't know how long they were together before that, but he has been with one wife for 30 some odd years. How many wives has he had? How many wives has he had? I know of at least 2. One that he would have left before when, as when he was a minister, and when he left office as a minister, I am told by a relative of the woman that she ended up with the vehicle that he had, and then she attempted to sell it and couldn't sell it because there was still a balance on it and whatnot. And in order to get it released by the Comptroller of Accounts, as is the process when you take a loan from the state to purchase these vehicles, and she couldn't sell. And then you had the young girl who was with the DJ, right? And we all remember that video where the DJ was helping himself, eating at the table, so to speak, and then cuss him out and let him know, this is my wife. And F you. Remember that? Well, they ain't together. They done. Now we changing women faster than he changing jockey shorts. And we've seen the videos. We've seen the videos. But this is the example. This is the only person that Kamala Prasad Bisesa could have found. Of what is the real reason for putting him there? What? We know that ministry could run with one person. All right? If you want to go 2. Because in the last administration, it was under one person for a time, and then we had Mr. Leons was added to the portfolio as there was an expansion with respect to the 3 new state companies under the HDC that dealt with the Home Mortgage Bank, that dealt with construction and maintenance and all of these different things. So the portfolio expanded a little bit, and Mr. Leons was brought in. But you have 3 ministers, and one telling you that he feels greatly underutilized, such that he has time to be everywhere. Anything that going on, he there. Everywhere except where he should be, in the Ministry of Housing. Right? And this one, dressing up in shirt and tie and jacket, to go and sit down in our office to do a live, to cuss out a former Prime Minister who is no longer even in public life, who has left public life entirely. He's no longer an MP, he's nothing. He's just a former Prime Minister enjoying his retirement, as his political leader should be doing. Right? Because she's just 2 years younger than Dr. Rowley. But he's no longer in public life. You say all kind of nastiness about the man for years. He's gone. You wanted him gone, he is gone. But you're still there. Because it's so ingrained in your DNA. You're so nasty. Dr. Rowley living in his head, rent-free. They need to start charging Dr. Rowley property tax for living in his head, rent-free. He just can't let it go. Right? And the rest of them too. Because his colleague who I played for you before, David Naked, different. So, rabbit dogs, flock of Kobo. I'm trying to find what the other one, Philip Alexander, what he referred to you all as. Yeah. And these are ministers of government who took an oath. But cussing PNM supporters morning, noon, and night, tea, breakfast, and dinner. In cares, Naked say you don't care about all your. You don't care about all your. The parade, as he said, was a PNM, what do you call it? A PNM fete or something like that. And the proof is that how come for 10 years the parade was never held in Shogunas, in Central or South? That's the proof that it was a PNM event, because it was never held in Central or South. So Central and South is not PNM. So if you move it from Port of Spain to Central, what does that make it? UNC? A UNC party? If you move it to South, so clearly he perceives Central and South to be PNM. To be UNC, sorry. But Keith Rowley presided over 7 Independence Day parades. 7. 2016, 17, 18, 19. That's 4. There was none in 2020 and none in 2021 because of COVID. And then we came 22, 23, 24. 7 Independence Day parades. Kamala Persad-Bissessar presided over 6. 2010, because she came in as Prime Minister in May of 2010, so she would have presided over the parade for 2010. 2011, 10 days after she implemented a state of emergency, supposedly to treat with something that was about to happen that would make the 1990 coup look like a tea party. So serious was it. But 10 days into that state of emergency to treat with such a significant threat, we still had the parade. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, she demitted office on the 7th, on the 9th of September. So that was 9 days after her last parade that she presided over. 6, 1 less than Keith Rowley. In that 6 years, how come she didn't hold not once did she hold the parade in Central? Not once did she hold the parade in South. Right? In the same Port of Spain, she held it. There wasn't a PNM party, there wasn't a PNM fete then. So Dr. Rowley presided over one more. One. And because it wasn't held in Central or South, has never been held in Central or South. Nothing preventing Central and South from hosting a similar event. But when you look at the venue, that has been the norm. That has been the norm. And let's have it in Tobago. So what? And it was in the same place in Tobago. So I said because they had it where in Shore Park or wherever it is, I'm not too sure where they have it. So because they had it there and they didn't have it in Castara, or they didn't have it in Charlottesville or any of those other places, that changes the complexion, right? That is the logic. That is UNC donkey logic of this clown, David Nakid. So because it wasn't held in Central or South, well, okay. None this year. So we have at least, so in 2025, so we have 26, 27, 28, 29 as 4. 2030, they have until the 23rd, 28th to the 30th of August, the 28th of August, 29th of August, to call the election, 2 days before the parade. So Persad-Bissessar will preside over at least 4 more. Let's see if in any of those 4 years, should they decide to have it, if she's going to move it to Central or move it to South. And since he is part of the government and he is of the view that to change the complexion so it's not a PNM fete because it's being held in Port of Spain, if it is held for the next 4 years in Port of Spain, if it's still going to be considered a PNM fete, a PNM parade for PNM supporters. So now we understand why they didn't go. And why it is this year is of no biggie to them, because they are accustomed not going. They are accustomed not going. So, and because in their minds, so now as I say, mouth open Tory jumper, we understand why it is they won't go in, because they saw it. This parade, a display of the country's military assets, something that citizens only get to see once a year. Or if perchance you might be on the highway or driving and you see one of the vehicles or two, maybe. But the one day of the year that you get to see and people say, oh, good, I didn't know we had that. I didn't know we had that, to be able to see the helicopters flying over and the aircraft and so on. These young children appreciate that. But for them, that was a PNM party. So apparently no UNC supporters ever used to go to that. Right. Let me see if I get this now. That's their logic. Where is it? Where is it? So on that same score, there was Minister of Finance, Dave Tanku, who didn't want to be left out of the party. So where is this thing? Where is it? Right, let me see if I find this here. Is it saved here, boy? So there was a recording going around of Mr. Tanku. And I think I saved it, but I'm not seeing it. Yes.
Ask yourself, ladies and gentlemen, If we have established that there is a viable, a true, a real security threat against high office holders in the country, including members of the judiciary, police service, and prison service, why is the PNM so anxious to have all of these individuals in one place? Who exactly is the PNM trying to facilitate? The criminals? Ask yourself these very serious questions, and these are not things that are happening by the way. This is not just the PNM being as obstructionist as they always have been. This is a real problem, and the solution is obvious, which is the solution that we have taken. But the PNM hunger to have all of these high-ranking officials, the seniors of the police service, the prison service, the fire service, the judiciary, all those would have been present at these parades. Those are the very same people who have been stated to be at risk, and the PNM still want them to put themselves at risk. Ask yourself, ladies and gentlemen, who the PNM is trying to facilitate. And if that doesn't tell you what the PNM is about, nothing will.
So that's Tanku, right? Trying to insinuate that the PNM has some sinister motive in wanting to have the Independence Day parade. And ask yourself why the PNM would want to facilitate, who they're trying to facilitate by insisting that all of these high-ranking officials, public officials, be in one place. And what could happen with this this intelligence that shows a credible threat against high-ranking officials, and what he left out one thing there in terms of all the people that he listed who would be present at the parade. PNM members of parliament. 13 of us in the lower house and 6 in the upper house. Right? We would have been there because we can't advocate to have a parade and then don't show up. How would we look? If we make it a whole set and say we want the parade and bring back the parade and the parade belongs to the people and the people want the parade and then none of us show up, how that would look? And then if something were to happen, then they could say, well, yeah, but you notice none of the PNM was there and this couldn't go happen, so the PNM. So we advocating to have the parade, which we would have been part of, advocating and trying to facilitate the criminal element to do something to these high-ranking officials while we are there, so we would have been exempt. Last I checked, we would have had no say as to where we sit. So they can't even say, well, all right, well, they choose an area to sit far from everybody else, so if things happen, they wouldn't be impacted. When you get there is where they tell you to sit, you sit. So if anything were to happen, we too would be injured. So we advocating for something for our own injury. But again, that is UNC logic. That is his logic. That's what he's thinking. His dotish logic. That we call in for the parade because we're trying to get all of these public officials in one place to facilitate the criminal element to be able to inflict injury on these people. And we too would be in attendance in the same space as all of these other people. So apparently we are immortals, right? We can't die and we can't suffer injury. Now that is UNC logic. That's idiocy. And this man is the Minister of Finance. He's the Minister of Finance. That's the kind of logic that is managing your money on a daily basis. Right? So accuse us. But it's not just the PNM saying so. Go on social media. A lot of people, some of their own activists who spoke for them during the election are saying the parade has significance. And they tell you the significance that it has to them. So to make it seem as if it's only the PNM MPs who call in for this and the opposition and they're trying to this and trying to that in the face of. Rubbish. Utter rubbish. And that is why even in the PNM control corporations, they're still having some kind of Independence Day activity that was already in train. The PNM government, the last administration had already approved monies for the event. So for them to come and talk now about saving money but spending money on all kind of foolishness. I just told you all of these ministers who are unnecessary, but who making all this sort of money every month to do nothing. Right? And they are there. But this clown, he's the Minister of Finance and talking this nonsense, this rubbish. And of course, the supporters going to buy into that dotishness, right? So again, we advocating to have the parade, which we would attend, so that we could bring harm unto ourselves and other people. I tell you. That's not. Winston Bachelor is saying, with all due respect, the people don't care what you have to say about the PNM. What the people need from you is what the PNM going to do if you get back into power. The people have spoken. We told the people what we were going to do, Mr. Bachelor. It was called a manifesto. Perhaps you weren't listening because you were so focused on the UNC's promises, right? And you were so focused on listening to their campaign that you didn't listen to ours. So we did tell the population what we were going to do in the same way the UNC did. And people like you, Mr. Bachelor, chose to listen to the UNC. So don't come here now to tell me the people who want to know what we will do if we get back into power. We told them. They know what we were going to do. The PNM has something called Vision 2030, and we also had a manifesto as well. So if you're really interested in what we would do, go back and listen. Pull up the meetings on YouTube, and you would hear Stuart Young talking and Dr. Rowley talking, and you would hear Foster Cummins and all the rest of us who spoke on the various campaigns. You would hear what it is we told the country. All of the things that we were going to do. That doesn't change, because the country still needs all of these things. So to come here to talk about the people don't care what I have to say about the PNM. But if I tell you what we would do if we were to come back into office, is that not talking about the PNM? Come now, man. And you always come here every time to try and throw me off. If you want to support the UNC, that is on you. But I'll tell you something. As much as you may wish to deny it, because some of you all are in denial, because you can't understand how the UNC could squander such a mandate in the space of just 3.5 months, where they have so many people in this country who voted for them who are regretting their vote. And so many people who chose not to vote, who withheld their vote from the PNM, who are now regretting that they did that in the space of 3.5 months. And when you come here to talk a pack of nonsense, and not once have I ever read you expressing any concern for the 30-something thousand persons who have lost their jobs. But you will come here and talk a pack of rubbish. You want the next one called, I see this is a new one. Let me see his name here, Anthony Ford. I don't know why you clowns keep coming on my live. You know, if you don't want to hear what I have to say, go elsewhere. Go and listen to the Underground Report. They don't have it today. Replay it. Go and listen to that. Listen to that trash. You have so many radio stations that are pro-UNC. Go and listen to them. Why are you here? I did not invite you here. Go elsewhere and listen. Come here to talk nonsense about that's why you're in opposition for the next 20 years. Okay. And what's going to happen after the 20 years? Who's going to be in office? And the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago said, so 60 years of oppression from the PNM was enough. 60 years of oppression is clowns like them. Anyway, let me do a little listen up my blood pressure. 60 years of oppression. Yeah, that's what they call an oppression, right? Well, the 35,000 people who had jobs up until the PNM demitted office on the 1st of May, they weren't oppressed. They weren't oppressed, Mr. Ford. They had jobs. They were able to pay their bills. They were able to put food on their table. They were able to send their children to school. They didn't have to be knocking from pillar to post now, trying to see where they could get money to scrape up to be able to put food on the table, to pay passage, to send their children to school. This gentleman who killed himself, this former CPA program who killed himself last week because he was overcome by his circumstance, which this administration that you supporting put him in. That's why he killed himself, because he couldn't support his family. He went from being able to not being able to at all and took his own life, right? But you disgusting wretches have no feeling with respect to that and want to come and talk about PNM oppression. Well, guess what? That man wasn't a young man. And if the PNM was oppressing him, he would have taken his life long ago. But it took a UNC government to come into office for him to end his life. That is oppression. So people like you don't know or understand what oppression is. So when you all want to come and talk your rubbish, just remember, those of us like myself and my other colleagues who every week sit down in an office for hours and having to listen to people coming in, looking for help which they did not need for the last 10 years when the PNM was in office, in terms of finding employment. Today, they have no income coming in, not because of the PNM. It's because of the UNC that you all support, that they don't have a job. that they're coming by me for help. Right now, I have a gentleman who is looking for assistance because he was evicted. And I'm trying to see what I could do to be able to help him. He has reached out to me, right? So I asked my office manager to look into it and to see what we could do to be able to assist. But he wants to try and knock up something together to put up a little structure for himself and his family to stay until their circumstance can improve. So when we, every week, people coming to us and we dip into our pockets to help these people, and you clowns have no idea but want to accuse us, oh, the PNM wicked, and the PNM don't care, and the PNM is oppressors, and all of that. Stupidness. You all don't sit in the office with us when we have to be going through that. But you could come here and talk this rubbish, and then you all will go out there and see the same CPEP workers begging and look down on them and pass them straight like a full bus. Big man like you, big hardback woman like you, why don't go and look for work? They had one. They no longer have one because of the government that you support took away their job on the pretext of corruption. And then we move from, it's not corruption, it's because the PNM, these programs are creating a nation of grass cutters. And then we move from, it's not the nation of grass cutters, it's because these network programs were making the corporation workers lazy and they weren't doing their job because CPEP and URP was doing the jobs that they're supposed to be doing. And they coming in at 8 o'clock and leaving and clocking out at 10 o'clock and so on. And we need to change that culture. But you're not even giving the people a timeline that they could look to. They say, all right, they will take 3 months, 6 months. So at least they could set their mind on that. Nothing. You're telling them, well, the CPEP and URP program right now is on a pause, but we still have support. You all could get support from social development. And then when they go to social development now, social development is telling them, well, here, what you don't qualify because of your household income. Because the young lady who was still earning her small money, or they like to say, the young people say the little dust. She was able to support herself, as small as it was. But living home now with mommy and daddy, no income coming in, you expect her to keep going every week or every day to ask mommy and daddy for support when she has 2 children or 3 children to take care of. And mommy and daddy are probably pensioners. But you look at mommy's salary, mommy's income and daddy's income, and you say, well, nah. And she probably have a brother in the house. And when you add up the income of all 3, it exceeds the limit. So you say, well, your household income doesn't qualify you. But they're not taking into consideration her mother's money, daddy money, siblings' money is not her money. She can't rely on them to take care of her needs, to pay her bills. She needs help to pay her own bills. And even if it is that her family network could give her some support, there's only so much they could give. And I have people coming to me every week frustrated because they're looking for work and they can't find work because of the amount of people that are looking for work. But you all want to come and accuse us, oh, we wicked and we evil and we don't care. But you all are not there every week when we have to deal with these things, this situation which your government that you support created. But like when they just, I don't know, I can't understand how the mind of UNC supporters. Cannot understand it for the life of me. You all accuse us of being wicked and heartless, but you all are the ones who are wicked and heartless. You all are the ones. Miss me with that rubbish. Just for the sake of party. I'll turn a blind eye to all of these people. In 3.5 months, 35,000 people fired and more to come. More to come. They said they would create 55,000 jobs. How many have they created so far? You could tell me, Winston? You can tell me how many jobs they create so far. That's your government that you support. Or Mr. Ford, tell me now how many jobs have they created in the 3.5 months that they've been in office. We could tell you how many they took away, how many they destroyed. That we could tell you with ease. So when the next CSO report comes out and it says that the unemployment rate has gone up, I hear what it is all you will come and say. What you all will come and say there? Tomorrow, my office will be giving out some books. Thanks to all of those persons who heeded the call and came with the gently used books that the children would have used last year, and they brought it in, and we will be able to assist to fill some book lists or part of a book list. And the couple book lists that I was able to fill from my own resources and the donations that would have come to the office from Good Samaritans who listen, I say thank you to all of you. The young lady I told you all about, the 19-year-old with the 3 kids who can't even afford to buy sanitary napkins and using cloth and so on, a couple of persons have reached out to me indicating that they wish to assist her. I'm grateful for that too, and tomorrow I'll have my office manager make the arrangements to contact her and find out how we can organize to give her that much needed assistance. That is what our focus is. Not on the stupidness while they want to cover 60 years of PNM oppression and all this kind of dotishness. When you were sitting down in school and that the PNM managed and paid for, were you oppressed? Was that oppression? What oppression? What oppression? What worse oppression could there be than you being gainfully employed and a government comes into office, fool you up, bamboozle you to vote for them, and then come and take away your job just like that? With no regard, with no cushion, no sort of support. And think driving around in a truck 11 o'clock in the night talking about bring out your bowl, bring out your bag, bring out your terrine. We have fish here. Come and get your fish. The saying goes, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach him to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. The man was fishing. You come and take away his ability to fish and then passing around once in a blue moon to tell him bring out the bowl and bring out the bag and whatnot for some fish. And then you want to call the PNM oppressors? You serious, Mr. Ford? The same PNM that attempted to extend the contracts so that these people could be employed until 2029 had nothing else to do with it. No trying to protect no contractor, no kind of nonsense. Because some of these very same contractors who are today out of work were contractors that the UNC put there between 2010 to 2015 when they expanded the program. Because when the PNM came in and when they left in 2010, CPEP wasn't as big as it was. When the UNC came in and they expanded it, after they said the worst about the program, they came in 2010 and expanded it by thousands of workers. And when the PNM came in, and I read the article for you, when it is they said they needed to take a look at the CPEP program and see how they could fix it, clean it up. Munilal jump out, 12,000 workers facing the breadline. And how much contractors, and it would be wrong to send home all of these contractors and so on and all of that. Chalala, and how you could do that in the height of the July, August vacation. Same thing that they come and do. The same thing that his government has done. He opposed in 2016. Every single thing. Gave you 1,000,001 reasons why it was bad. In 2016, but in 2025, when last I hear Munilal say something, quiet. Not a word to say. And all we keep hearing about is firings. The Prime Minister attacked FCB, and now we see that the CEO of FCB gone and leave. We hear she on pre-retirement leave. I never hear that in my life in the private sector, people going on pre-retirement, but okay. So she remains the substantive CEO until, so they say, until October, and then she will be proceeding on retirement. All of a sudden, right? They fired the CEO of WASA. They fired the central bank governor. Now we hear the CFO of Caribbean Airlines has been suspended. The whole board, the whole executive of WASA, they fired too, firing people from our side. But ask these same bleeding heart supporters who want to come here and troll me. Tell us how many jobs have they created in the 3.5, almost 4 months, 1 week shy of 4 months. Tell us. They said they would create 55,000 jobs. People still waiting on this 55,000 jobs. All of these young people who were in this over 40 programs that was being offered by the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service that is no more. Who wondering what is going on. Those who were looking forward to getting the 2 acres of land, the 2 acres of land that the oppressive PNM was going to give them, the $20,000 grant. Not alone, the $20,000 grant, Mr. Ford, that the oppressive PNM was giving them. The two-bedroom starter home, Mr. Ford, that the oppressive PNM was going to give to them. That now they don't know what is going to happen to that. The farmer's license that the oppressive PNM was going to give to them. Where is the UNC equivalent? What have they offered them? UNC not oppressive. No, the UNC are the liberators. They have come to save Trinidad and Tobago from the wicked, evil, oppressive PNM. The same wicked, evil, oppressive PNM that last year in the budget set aside millions of dollars, $20 million to be able to give 1,000 persons grants of up to $20,000 to start a business. The same oppressive PNM that wasn't saying we're going to create 55,000 jobs. No, they wanted to create entrepreneurs. They wanted to create an environment for people to start their own business and write your own paycheck. Not that somebody tell you your worth for the month is $4,500 or $5,000 and want to work you like a slave, beat you like a rented mule for that little $4,000, $5,000 a month. The government say no. The oppressive PNM say, yeah, what? Come, you have a business idea, we will help you to bring it into fruition. We will make it a reality. But we ain't just going to give you the money. We're giving you the training to be able to be a success. And if you encounter problems, come back to us and we will put you onto people who can guide you to ensure that your business is a success. And if you need further financial support, we put in those things in place too, because we are a wicked, evil, oppressive government. And that is what a wicked, evil, oppressive government does. They empower people. They go beyond the call of duty to ensure that people are employed. Even if the opposition then wanted to call it make work programs that went nowhere. It wasn't a career. But all the people who were working and who were collecting the little dust at the end of the month or the fortnight were happy because they could do something. They're using that and the little food card and any other little money they get elsewhere with little ends, odds and ends. People who were paying their mortgage. Some of these contractors who took mortgages to purchase homes. So they don't have to be every week or every month going by the HDC. I just checking on my application because I applied 20 years now and I ain't hear nothing. 6 months ago, they tell me I was in allocations and I ain't hear nothing. So I just come to follow up to see if there's been any movement. No. The little money that they were getting, they went to the bank, to the credit union and took loans, took mortgages so they could build their own homes and buy a home. So they don't have to join the key at HDC and waiting years and then finally only to be told, well, here, what, because of your age, you don't qualify for a mortgage. So basically, you've aged out of the list. So it don't make no sense coming back every month or every 6 months to inquire because you're too old to get a mortgage. And we don't really have the stock of rent to own. Well, yeah, that. So don't bother to waste your time. Government created an opportunity for people to be able to do that. Now some of these contractors facing eviction, they're facing foreclosure on their homes because they can't pay their mortgages. But you all want to come here and tell me nonsense about 60 years of PNM oppression. Tell that to the people, the small man who got an opportunity. The people who waiting how much donkey years on the HDC list, who should have been living in Victoria Keys since between 2010 to 2015. But because the UNC, the Salvation UNC, the great UNC that cares about people decided when they came into office to convert those what should have been low-income apartments to convert it into high-end apartments, turn 3-bedroom into 2-bedroom and put swimming pool and gym and concierge service and covered parking and all these facilities and increase the income ceiling to qualify for an HTC house from a household income of 25,000 to 45. So the big shot friends, family financiers, Dr. Laya, and all these people could qualify to get these apartments that should have been occupied now. The hundreds that should have been occupied are today because of what it cost to construct and to complete. The government cannot. I am told, if you see, they complain, oh, how much people, PNM people, you see who think and who was benefiting from state housing, but I am told by somebody who lives there. And nothing to do with thing. This person bought it because remember the last administration put it on the open market. This person purchased the apartment because they could afford it. Right? And they tell me when sometimes I'm walking out to the car in the morning and I'm seeing this black SUVs pulling up and this man and this woman and they seeing this one, these people, I never see them in the building before. All of a sudden you see them and these black SUVs pulling up to pick them up. Same people who was complaining, about who was benefiting from state housing and had to stop and all of that. But who benefiting from it now? I don't live there. I'm not telling tales out of school. This is what was told to me by residents there who know, who are accustomed and what they're seeing now. They wasted no time, 3.5 months. But want to come and talk to me, tell me nonsense about oppression, PNM oppression for 60 years of PNM oppression. Sickening with that rubbish, yes? You're brainwashed. Brainwashed. You can see how get all your good. Corey McEwen is saying, I see WASA has some upgrade plans. Were those upgrade plans under the last government are now being fulfilled? All of that, Corey. All of that. Taking credit for things that the last administration did. I see an article today. NGC records a profit for 2024 of 1.6 billion. 2024, UNC wasn't in office in 2024, so they can't take credit for that. But the chairman, Mr. Ramdeen, who is still the subject of police investigation, who is sitting as the chairman of that facility today, is talking about the debt that is owed by TNTech. Don't complain when the last administration was saying, listen, the citizens have to contribute. They're paying the lowest rates for electricity. Something has to be done because the government doesn't have the funding. We don't have the money right now. And the debt will continue to go up if we keep the rates at what it is. Oh, we want to increase, we don't know rate. All right, fine. This government come in and they hand people like Mr. Ford, they hand them a bone. Yeah, look, no, we're not going to increase electricity rates for now. Right? They make sure they put a caveat there for now. They say we're not going to increase electricity rates, period. No, we're not going to increase electricity rates for now. You know what that means? Hold that. And maybe a year or two down the road, when the debt goes up a little more, and then NGC starts to complain about the impact it's having on their bottom line and how they need that money and it's impacting shareholders and blah, blah, blah. Come and say, well, we need to increase the rates. All the things the PNM was telling earlier, we can't pay the diverse family because they lie, they think they want to pay the this and that, right? They come into office 3.5 months, 4 months, diverse family ain't get 1 penny yet. So you're trying to offer them $1 million, they turn it down. They ain't get 1 cent. But according to Mr. Ford, the PNM is an oppressor. 60 years of oppression under the PNM. And the PNM gave him, and people like him, assuming that he pays taxes, 3 increases in his personal allowance in the last 10 years, from 60,000 in 2015 when the PP demitted office to 90,000 in 2025. 3 increases on your personal allowance. You're paying less income tax. But the oppressive, wicked, and evil PNM did that. Yes. Kamala was there for 5 years. Pandey was there for 6. They didn't give you no increase. None. But Rowley come and give you not 1, not 2, but 3 increases and only a riot yet. 3 increases in your personal allowance. So you're taking home more pay. You're in riot yet. Whether you're in the public service or the private sector, you're getting to take home more money. You're giving less money to the border inland revenue, less money to the taxman. But you ain't riot yet. 3 increases, Mr. Ford. We're waiting on to riot. That same wicked and oppressive Rowley government reduced VAT from 15% to 12.5%. The one and only reduction in VAT since it was introduced by the NAR. Wicked and evil, oppressive government did that. So you're paying less money on your phone bill, your light bill, your WhatsApp bill, and everything else. You go to buy a brand new car, you're paying 2.5% less in VAT than you were paying under Kamala between 2010 to 2015. That same wicked and oppressive Rowley government removed VAT on cell phones, computers, laptops, tablets, no VAT, none. All these parents, when they go to buy books and buy whatnot, they're paying 12.5% VAT on these things instead of 15% as it was under the People's Partnership. When you're going to build your house or you're doing some renovation or extensions at home and you go to the hardware, you're paying 12.5% VAT on the cement instead of 15%. You're paying 12.5% on the purlin and on the galvanized sheetings, 12.5% on everything else, the red sand and the gravel, instead of 15% that you were paying under the benevolent People's Partnership. This wicked and evil, oppressive PNM have you paying less when you go to the hardware. Yes, same wicked and evil PNM. When you go to the grocery, instead of 15% VAT, you're paying 12.5%. But that is what a wicked, oppressive, evil government does. That's what they do. Yeah? Give me a comparison. Anything that Kamala did between 2010 to 2015. This same wicked and evil and oppressive former PNM administration that increased the income ceiling for pension from 4,005. When Kamala say 4,005 is enough for a senior citizen to live off of, and the PNM, this wicked, evil, oppressive PNM that oppressing you for 60 years, say no, increase it to 5,005 so you could get more. You could get more, a little more. We don't have to come and tell you, well, we increased pension from 3,500 or 3,000 to 4,000. We increased the amount that you could qualify for based on your NIS and so on, so you could get a little more. That is what a wicked, oppressive, and evil government does. You know what? They had to take licks because they did all these things and they didn't tell the population. So if you weren't listening or you didn't go and do your research, you wouldn't know. They assumed that the population would say, nah, boy, we can't take the chance here, the PNM this and the PNM, we can't take the chance with the UNC because we know what they offer. That was the mistake that they made. And didn't do what this UNC government doing now. They go on the Facebook page, the social media pages of any minister, see them, what they're doing. Video with them jumping out the back of a Prado. Video with them jumping out the back of a Fortuna. Video with them jumping out the front seat of the Nissan X-Trail. They come in the office, they had to take a video with them when they walk in the office and they walk to the office. Michelle Benjamin, all of a sudden, she become an actress now, right? She doing all kind of ads for the ministry. So I saw she did an ad for Carrie Fester. They did some ad in the Savannah where she dressed up and she dancing and thing. Now the latest ad, they send this guy, this comedian, Junior Lee, to represent Trinidad and Tobago at Carrie Fester. And he has an ad where he's sitting down in her office by her desk and he talking, and then she comes into the room. But Junior Lee, what you doing? Sit down by the minister desk. But you get through. And he say, but they tell me so and so and so. And then she says, no, I will tell you that you get through to go to Carrie Festa and whatnot. He say, you have my plane ticket. She hands him a brown envelope. Junior Lee, your plane ticket and your per diem. You know what's per diem? You give you spending money. That's to take care of your little incidentals and things. Now, government get a little some for each day that you're there. You have to buy meals or pay for whatever. Now, I'm not hating. Junior Lee is one of my favorite comedians. I love when he does his skits. He's got me rolling. Right? So I have no problem with that. He's a cultural ambassador. Man do anything. But all of a sudden, Michelle Benjamin, as I say, to an actress. Yeah, go on Instagram. Those of you on Instagram, pull up Junior Lee's profile and you will see the latest video that he did. He and Michelle. Yeah? So she's finally found, well, what she considers to be her talent. She's a star, an actress. All of them stunting. They got so bad now, TTT had to be reposting things. So things that happened last week, they posted pictures with this minister meeting this one and courtesy call. And then this week they reposted because they had nothing to post on, because they didn't do nothing else this week. Nothing fresh. So we reposting from last week. Talk about propaganda. That's what the PNM should have been doing. Imagine now you listening to Sweet 100. Before Sweet 100 was only music. Now it's only level government ads. Government ads in your tail. Take it. Yeah, PNM wasn't doing that. But as I said, the last 10 years was too quiet and too docile and boring. We didn't have no Sata Bacana, no government minister name call up and nothing. So, we needed to spice a bit. PNM too boring. Let me just govern. Right. Last thing before I leave, because this evening there is, for those of you who live in a urban environment, we're still celebrating, well, Borough Month. So this evening they have Parang in Arima, in the park opposite the Catholic Church. Right, so that will be the culmination of today's activities. This morning, as I said, there was a church service, the procession, and then this evening they have Parang from about 6 o'clock. Right, live Parang bands will be there. So if you're interested, you can feel free to attend, and it's entirely free. Judy says you have been laughing. Judy, if we laugh, I don't know what we'll do again. I'm telling you, these people that easy. So Mrs. Pasad Misasa put out her response to, so let me get this here. A press release regarding what's happening with the US and what ministry we shall in again, man? Yeah, where is it? Right, I'm gonna play it for you.
That Trinidad and Tobago will be sending a delegation to Carrie Festa. Yes, from August 22nd to August 31st, a delegation from Trinidad and Tobago will be in Barbados for Carrie Festa. We are not merely attending, we are sending the heartbeat of Trinidad and Tobago. I'm talking about our music, our dance, our theater arts, our culinary arts, and our vibrant creativity. This is more than participation. This is representation. Representation of Caribbean unity, cultural exchange, and of course, promotion of...
Julie, what you doing in my office?
No, but remember the call and tell me I'm going to Barbados with Carrie Festa again.
I'm telling you, get through. You're supposed to wait in the conference room, Junior. Junior, you get too excited. It's over. Get through. Sit down by the minister's desk.
Are you going to take it?
This was your plane ticket, your podium, Junior. You'll get through.
All right, well, I get really excited anyway. Before I forget, I know you.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Sorry.
Yeah. Juneli get you, but you will get you sit on by the minister desk. Tell all of a sudden, Michelle, I don't know if she auditioning for Best Village. But she's an actress, a big actress. Right. Folks, let me see if I get this thing here, because that time, well, I didn't even realize is that time as well. Oh, come on, man. What is this? I don't know what's going on with this thing when I get freeze up. Anyway, so Mrs. Prasad Bissasa's press release that she put out with respect to Trinidad and Tobago's position with what is happening in the US coming to the Caribbean, sending the fleet to the Caribbean to treat with the drugs and the so on and the so on. So let's see if I get this. So let me get this here. I forgot Kamala blocked me, so I can't even pull it up there to read it for you. I just asked a question and I get blocked. So let me see if I find this thing here. Alright, let me try something else. I'm gonna try one more thing. This should do it. Right. PM, government supports US warships in the region. Prime Minister Kamala Prasad Bisasa has made it clear her government stands fully in support of the move by US President Donald Trump to deploy 3 warships off the coast of Venezuela. Further, she said Trinidad and Tobago will allow US troops access to its territory if the regime of Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro launches an attack on Guyana. In a statement issued yesterday evening, Prasad Bisasa stated that no requests have been made by the American government for its military assets to access Trinidad territory for any military action against the Venezuelan regime. She added Trinidad and Tobago has always had good relations with the Venezuelan people and that this will continue. However, I want to make it very clear that if the Maduro regime launches any attack against the Guyanese people or invades Guyanese territory, and a request is made by the American government for access to Trinidadian territory to defend the people of Guyana, my government will unflinchingly provide them with that access. Prasad Bisasa said the US government's deployment of military assets into the Caribbean to destroy the terrorist drug cartels has the full support of the government of Trinidad and Tobago. She pointed out that due to the drug, human, firearms trafficking, Caribbean countries, particularly Trinidad and Tobago, have experienced massive spikes in transnational crime, gang activities, murders, violence, and financial crimes. Really? I thought it was because of the PNM. I didn't know it was because of drug, human, firearms trafficking that we experience these things. But for the last 10 years, you always saying is when the PNM, whenever the PNM is in office, these things has happened, crime has go up. So your tune changes, not because of the PNM anymore. Oh. Small island states like ours simply do not have the financial and military resources to take on the drug cartels. Wow. Really, Mrs. Prasad Bisasa? But for the last 10 years, you all made it seem as if it was just a lack of political will on the part of the PNM to deal with the drug cartel because the Coast Guard, the borders were porous, the Coast Guard didn't have diesel, the Coast Guard vessels were down. All these were the reasons why it had nothing to do with the small island states like us not having the financial and military resources. Wow. What a difference an election makes. According to the Prime Minister, the cartels have been able to embed themselves in the highest echelons of Caribbean societies, exerting influence in politics, legislation, media, banking, security, and economics, often rendering governments toothless in their attempts to stop criminal activity. She forgot to mention in campaign financing. $20 million campaign financing, madam. You forget to mention that. They embed themselves through that as well. What zone of peace? Highlighting the region's record crime levels, Prasad Bisesa said it was shocking to hear negative commentary on the U.S. deployment of warships. Record murder rates, gang activity, drug addictions, violent crime, and increasing poverty throughout the Caribbean, and especially in our country, certainly do not paint a peaceful existence. Well, your government just imposed poverty on 35,000 people. So I don't know how you're going to deal with that, but anyway. Therefore, it is shocking to hear some persons using referrals to the Caribbean region as a zone of peace to push negative commentary on the U.S. military deployment against those terrorist cartels. Now, I don't know if Mrs. Prasad Bisesa playing smart with foolishness or if she's just dumb. No disrespect. But I'm pretty sure that when our CARICOM leaders and neighbors talk about zone of peace, they're referencing the fact that the absence of war, right? We don't have any major conflict as we see taking place in Gaza, in the Ukraine, with Russia, and all of these different things. We don't have, that is what they mean as zone of peace, free from conflicts of that nature, madam, because every country in the world has crime. And because there is crime does not mean that your country does not have peace. We could live peacefully in Trinidad. Yes, we have crime, but at the end of the day, we don't have to worry about any missiles landing in your backyard. You don't have to worry about you go to the grocery and you may not come back home because a missile passed and lick up the grocery, as the people in Ukraine have to be worried about and have been worried about for the last 3 years, as the people in Gaza have been worried about, people in Iran, people in Israel, where there is exchange between Israel and Iran. That is what they mean by a zone of peace. Absent that type of conflict, madam, not crime. Ah, boy. Cheese and ages. The Prime Minister continued, the only persons who should be worried about the activity of the U.S. military are those engaged in or enabling criminal activity. Well, then your whole government's supposed to be worried. All those whose campaigns were funded by criminal activity should be worried. Law-abiding citizens have nothing to fear. Well, the PNM have nothing to fear. Because we name and get caught up in nothing. No, I'm pretty certain nobody could come and say they finance my campaign with any dirty money. Nobody. In fact, people in my campaign was complaining we didn't have enough jerseys and we didn't have enough hats and we didn't have enough this and we didn't have enough that. I said, listen, that is not what an election is about. I am not here to bribe people with trinkets and paraphernalia. Okay? What we have, we give out. And when it's done, it's done. So nobody can come afterwards and say, well, I give you this and I give you that and I want. I will not find myself in that situation. I'm pretty sure my colleagues are not in that situation either. Her remarks came after the MSJ, led by David Abdullah, issued a release on Thursday condemning the U.S. actions and calling on CARICOM to make a statement against Washington. Prasad Bisesa, however, said her government does not intend to engage CARICOM on this matter. The government of Trinidad and Tobago has not engaged and has no intention of engaging CARICOM on this matter. Each member state can speak for themselves on this issue. CARICOM has never had a practice of speaking individually. That is why you have CARICOM. That is why you have the heads of government meetings, so that CARICOM could speak as one voice. But ever since she was in opposition, Mrs. Prasad Bisesa has been against a lot of decisions made by CARICOM. In fact, and look at the hypocrisy, right? She is now in support of actions to treat with all of these these cartels and drug traffickers and all of these different things. But when CARICOM just last year, I believe it was, or was it earlier this year? Earlier this year, when Dr. Rowley attended his last CARICOM heads of government meeting, and he spoke on some of the decisions CARICOM had taken, one of which was to declare persons who use high-powered weapons to open fire on indiscriminately in crowds and so on as being declared as terrorists. She was against that, and she said a UNC government would not support that. They would not support that. And so Mrs. Prasad Bisesa continues to demonstrate that she is anti-CARICOM. She didn't go to the heads of government meeting in Jamaica. I understand there was some other meeting in Grenada that she did not attend. And when she continues to make statements like this, And we have the Barbados Prime Minister putting out a statement again, referring to the Caribbean region as a zone of peace. And she's now attacking people who say that the region is a zone of peace and paving the way for some of our own ministers to be putting out posts that are just as incendiary. I will show, so permit me to, let me get it here. Philip Alexander's latest post that he put out, where is it? Let me get it here. It reads, is it the same CARICOM that drugs, guns, and human cargo flowing through that Rowley and Motley, near Motley, calling a zone of peace? So now her loopy dog, Philip Alexander, is attacking Mia Motley, the Prime Minister of Barbados, for referring to the Caribbean region as a zone of peace. Understanding that when she says a zone of peace, I just explained to you all what she means. Absent the type of conflicts, military conflicts that we are seeing in other parts of the world. We don't have that here. All right? People can still feel free to jump on a plane and go to any other CARICOM country. You don't need no visa to do that, and you can have a holiday and come back home and you feel safe and you feel relaxed. That is why you have millions of tourists coming to the Caribbean region every year for vacation. They're not going to Ukraine. They're not going to Iran. They're not going to North Korea. Not so much Russia, and all of these places where you have these heavy armed conflicts. That is what is meant. But when you make statements like this and your loopy dogs feel that they need to endorse you and they need to show you that they support you, and they go on social media and share these things and encouraging UNC supporters to share and repost this nonsense, and also attack the same Mia Motley that they so love and wish when Dr. Rowley was Prime Minister, they wish that she was the Prime Minister because she saw this and she saw that and they so love her. What message you send in? You created an environment where citizens of Trinidad and Tobago are attacking. How you feel the Bajans will take that? How you think they will take that? That Trinidadians are no less a person than a senator and a government minister in Trinidad and Tobago is attacking the Prime Minister of Barbados. That is diplomacy? Is that how you expect government officials to behave? Is that how it's supposed to be done? But everybody playing follow the leader. Because they want cabinet and say, yes, I think leader, whoever you say, I support you. If you say we're going left, we're going left. If you say we're going right, we're going right. If you say we're going over the cliff, we're doing that too. Because you know best. So she has already made it clear we're not going to consult CARICOM. So she is of the view that each member state is supposed to speak for themselves. So what she's promoting is a divided CARICOM. So if you have some member states who feel that who are in disagreement and those who are in support, that everybody should come out, just like they love to do in the parliament, right? You have a bill, they have the numbers to pass it, all in favor say aye, aye, we don't say nothing. We hush. If we don't support them, we hush them out. Well, they have the numbers, as she said, they don't need our support to pass no legislation. They have the numbers, they will support it. So let's say aye, the ayes have it, the bill passed. Division, they want now to go down the line to record everybody on the opposition bench, what our position is. As if they figure that we will split on somebody. If we decide we vote no, that somebody will vote yes or somebody will say abstain, so that they can run and say, well, you see, the PNM divided. What you going on that road for? But that's what they do. They are masters at promoting division. So she is saying that rather than CARICOM speak as one voice, right? Stand together in one voice. Let everybody talk for themselves. So what's the point of CARICOM? It's better CARICOM mash up. Because if they can't stand in unison, speak in unison, come together in unison, well then what's the point? Just mash up CARICOM and let everybody, anything that happen, everybody talk for themselves. So I think it's safe to say we will not be seeing Mrs. Prasad Bisasa attending any CARICOM meetings anytime soon, as she continues to make reckless statements like these that alienate Trinidad and Tobago from the rest of CARICOM. She's clearly stating, making it known, she is not pro-CARICOM, she's not supporting, right? She's not consulting. Dr. Rowley would have done something different. They would have convened a meeting with the CARICOM heads, whether it by Zoom, and they discuss and they talk, okay, what is the position that we are taking? This is, but you see, they're not accustomed to that kind of thing. So like, when you have a bill in Parliament and you have caucus and we all sit down and we discuss the matter and this is how we voting. That's why some months ago, when there was some bill they were voting on, and Khadija, when it reached time for her to vote, she was like, How are we voting on this again? What are we voting on this again? Remember the hot mic? What we voting again? And somebody has to tell us we voting no. No. They don't know about meeting and discussing and consulting and coming up with one firm position. So as far as she's concerned, all them other CARICOM heads who talking about zone of peace and zone of peace, that not in her vocabulary. So don't expect to hear her talk nothing about no zone of peace. As far as she's concerned, the CARICOM, it has no peace in CARICOM. Because we have crime and drug cartels and all these things, so we have no peace. The CARICOM region is not a peaceful place. Trinidad and Tobago is not a peaceful place. So don't come here. You hear J.D. Vance said, US, Washington State had more crime than Trinidad and Tobago, which the State Department has advised people not to go to. We have no peace here. We have no peace in Trinidad. So they come in here. Nobody to come. The Prime Minister said, Caribbean region have no peace. It's not no zone of peace. So if we're not a zone of peace, well, what are we, Mrs. Pasabi-Sessa? Please, I'm asking for the 1-point-something million citizens who thought, well, Trinidad and Tobago citizens, or the millions of CARICOM citizens who thought the Caribbean region was a zone of peace, please tell us what it is, since according to you, it's not. Tell us what it is, please. That is the only Prime Minister. Statistics, how many people of African descent have left TNT? Well, look good, we. Look, folks, let me go and do something productive. Because some of these comments that I'm reading here from these USC trolls will send up my blood pressure. Brandon O'Brandy is saying the leader of the cabinet was upset when CARICOM gave Dr. Rowley a great send-off. Yes, she was. Claire Carrington is saying CARICOM is so important for our manufacturers. That is correct. And I wonder when Mrs. Pasabi-Sessa makes these statements, if she considers these things. In her first incarnation as a prime minister, you left office with the Jamaicans wanting nothing to do with Trinidad and Tobago, with senior officials in Jamaica calling for a boycott of Trinidad and Tobago goods in Jamaica, which is one of our largest Caribbean or regional markets for manufactured goods. And these people, you left a sour taste in the mouths of these people. So that when Dr. Rowley came in, he had to go and clean up your mess. His first visit to Andrew Holness as Prime Minister, he had to go. Andrew Holness told us that when he was bidding Dr. Rowley farewell, the first foreign leader that he engaged was Dr. Rowley, who had to come and try and clean up the mess of the UNC. To pacify, because the Jamaicans were ready to call it a quits, call it a day in respect of purchasing Trinidad and Tobago goods. And he had to go and fix it. And when it is that you are attacking, and by your statements, you have your ministers of government, not even your normal lackeys, not your low-level functionaries, a minister of government sharing posts criticizing the Prime Minister of Barbados, who just demitted office as the chairman of CARICOM. What does that say? Diplomacy be damned. Diplomacy be damned. That is why she had no problem saying what she said about telling the Coast Guard to open fire on vessels and unidentified vessels and use deadly force and all that kind of rhetoric. And then on the other hand, he said, yeah, we have a good relationship with Venezuela. Look, lady, miss me where that is. Yes, Donna, you are late. Melka says Kamala would bust her minister's head, but she would not bust napkin and anal mouth for disgracing her party, for the world to hear or to see how tough she is. As a matter of fact, they make her look weak as hell. So true. Poole said she was just going to note that what would happen if CARICOM nations stopped buying our products. Well, it would be, let's see. Well, everybody line up to kiss the ring, so don't look forward to too many people coming out to condemn this statement. Right? The Express certainly would not, because for them, a bigger issue is to condemn Dr. Rowley and call for him to apologize rather than ask the Honorable Prime Minister to take it down. Tone it down a little bit now. Tone down any rhetoric. We know you're trying to get somebody's attention, all right? But please, ease us up. Because you wouldn't be Prime Minister forever and ever. And when you demit office, whenever that is, we would still like to have Trinidad and Tobago to at least have some semblance of a relationship with the rest of CARICOM. So please, madam, don't try to burn down the whole house while you're there. All right? Please, take it down a notch. This relationship we have with CARICOM took a long time to build, and I think during her term as Prime Minister, the chairmanship will come back around to her. All right, because remember, it's a 6-month rotation. So I think at some point in time over the course of the next 5 years, she would be assuming the chairmanship of CARICOM. You don't want to go there and people turning up their nose at you and they didn't really care to listen to anything you had to say because of your incendiary rhetoric. Okay? Yes, you and your household, you could talk for them. But Trinidad and Tobago is not yours. You don't have the deed, all right? And you're just there for a while. So bear that in mind, please. Mikel is saying, where the big word man on this issue? Ralph Maraj. He is in the same boat, Mikel. In fact, he came out before the Prime Minister and stated that, where his support lies. PF Cutters is saying the Minister of AI, Dominic Smith, and Minister of Planning, Kennedy Swanson, want to take credit for the digital assistant and Nancy, that PNM under Mr. Hasselbackus. Yes. Caribbean Soul is saying when they're taking pictures, let them put on the flash. I don't know who he's talking about there. Natalie Superville is saying down Philippines, all the CPAP workers are by Christian Cleveland. Oh Lord, have mercy. HVAC Daily is saying, remember Kamala supported Guaido for president of Venezuela. Tanasi is saying, Mikel is the small wood man. Oh Lord, all ain't easy. Well, not easy. Oh Lord, Emily. Oh, they're wicked. A big say good afternoon to Mr. Chance, to all those who will be celebrating birthdays today. Birthday greetings to you. Right. Yes, the 15% tariff. That is what we are told is going to have an impact on foreign exchange. And, it's interesting. When the Republic Bank economists said that, all the UNC trolls came out and said, you're talking rubbish and all kind of thing. But as soon as Dr. Valmiki Arjun, came out and said it. Yes, he's making sense. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, we should be concerned. Right? I tell you. Anyway, what's the time there, folks? It's almost 5 o'clock. Good afternoon to Brian. Good afternoon to Jenny. We'll take calls on another day, folks, because I didn't plan to stay this long. And yeah, so to the folks that I met today at Santa Rosa Church, it was a pleasure meeting you all. I was able to meet some of my constituents. Always a pleasure to meet my constituents. Those who I would have missed during campaigning, but yeah. So thank you all so much for coming and introducing yourselves. You want to... Paul is saying he's so fast. He wants to tell the people how to run their country, and the people cannot run their own home. So true, Paul. So, folks, we will chat again soon. Miss Cecilia Hall. Yes, I met Miss Hall. So she's saying it was a pleasure meeting. Yes, ma'am. Indeed. So, yes, we'll chat again soon. Slimy Show is saying, why these UNC advocates sound so illiterate, boy? USA always invading sovereign states and never won a war yet. Same to you, Sedena. What are you having in the car next Sunday? I'm not aware. Next Sunday, have something I'm supposed to attend. I know this week I have a lot of things to attend. Quite a bit. Yeah, quite a bit of things to attend. Saturday, Sunday. Winston, again, are you saying that we should turn a blind eye to CPAP corruption just for the people to get paid? What's CPAP corruption? What's CPAP corruption, Mr. Bachelor? Has anybody been charged? Have you heard of anybody being under any investigation for any CPAP corruption? What's the CPAP corruption you're talking about? Tell me now. Because as far as I know, the CPAP contractors weren't paying themselves. Right? The CPAP company under the same Mr. Eddie or Edie or whatever the heck his name is, who is now have 1,000,001 things to say, is the CPAP company that was paying the workers. The CPAP company that was paying NIS and health surcharge. So if you want to tell me they were paying ghosts, then it was the CPAP's responsibility to ensure that you weren't paying the ghosts, because all of these ghosts have NIS numbers. You can't pay NIS for people for ghosts. All right? And I'm sure if these people were dead, the NIB would know. Because as far as I know, you don't live here, Winston, but when somebody dies, once they would have been contributing to NIB, you have to take in their birth certificate or a death certificate, to the NIB to let them know the person has died, and the NIB will give you $7,500 as a funeral grant. Nobody passes up that. So if any of these ghosts that the government is telling you existed in the CPAP and URP program were really ghosts, the NIB would know, because they would be in possession of a death certificate for these ghosts. So at some point in time, these people are going to be going to NIB to claim for a pension. All right? The same way they're paying health surcharge. I wasn't aware that ghosts could pay NIS and health surcharge. All right? So somebody's getting paid something. So I don't know what corruption you're talking about. But if the government is saying they have unearthed corruption in the space of 3.5 months, take it to the police. And then why is it? So you telling me about if I'm saying that we should turn a blind eye to CPAP corruption and so the people could get paid. But the UNC supporters voted for the UNC. Kamala said it. Her people wanted them to replace the so-called PNM ghosts with UNC ghosts. So the party, the people who support the UNC just like you, based on what your political leader said, what your prime minister said, is that your colleagues in the UNC wanted to turn a blind eye to the same corruption that you're talking about, Mr. Bachelor. That's why they voted for the UNC. According to Kamala, it's not me saying so, it's not Penny Beckles saying so, it's not Marvin Gonzalez saying so, it's not Keith Rowley saying so. Kamala said her supporters, people who voted for her and her party, wanted them to replace PNM ghosts with UNC ghosts. So when you're coming to ask me if I think you should turn a blind eye, your fellow supporters, UNC colleagues, wanted your government to turn a blind eye, Mr. Bachelor, so that they could continue the so-called corruption. So when they come in to tell me about if I think I should ignore the corruption so people could get paid, pay the people. There's very, very simple way to identify who was working. It ain't that hard. And when you want to come and tell me there were 331 contractors, again, they were not paying themselves. All right? 331 or so contractors who were on the job, some of them UNC contractors, some of them have been there for many years. So, but you would have us believe the UNC contractors wasn't involved in any wrong stand. No, it's only the PNM contractors. Right? Because when the PNM come in, they say, hey, we need to do a roll call and find out all who is PNM and who is UNC contractors. Bring all the contractors together in one big room. All PNM contractors put up all their hand. All UNC put up all their hand. All right, well, we know who is the UNC contractor. So all UNC, you always sit down at the back of the room and all the PNM come up and just leave 2 or 3 spaces so we will know and we can divide who is who, right? That's what they did. But whereas I checked, the contracts of all all the contractors was extended. Not just that of the so-called PNM. All the UNC contractors, their contracts were extended to Mr. Bachelor. All right? And since you had to do an audit, it's just like Fali Augustine. Fali came in 2021 and said he do an audit of all the things that the previous administration did. We are almost at the end of Fali's first term, hopefully his last. And up to now, the audit's still going on. 4 years now, that audit taking place. Can't done yet. 4 years and they can't find nothing to send to the police or to the DPP, but allege all kind of corruption. And you are saying, you who probably have a good paying job, you who have food in your fridge, food in your pantry, your bills paid, and you have money in your bank account, you don't have a care in the world. You don't have to worry about where the money coming from at the end of the month, right? You could afford to tell your children, jump in the car, we're going to the movies, we're going on a trip, we're going to Disney World, or we're going wherever it is. You could probably do that, right? But the creature comforts that these people could afford for their children, maybe want someone they could buy ice cream, or want someone give them a treat. Or for the little CPEP pay, the little CPEP dust, the URP dust, they can't do that anymore. So miss me with that foolishness, please, because when the UNC were in office between 2010 to 2015, it's years now we're hearing about UNC Ghost Gang. About URP Ghost Gang. Years we're hearing that. Where were you when the UNC sent up Sean Bill Francis in 1999? Mr. Francis, who was in charge of, who was a URP administrator for Region 2 in Port of Spain, while he was warring with Mark Guerra. That I read that article for you. Where were you? And the same UNC of which Kamla Prasad Bisesa was a part turned a blind eye then. In fact, they invited Mr. Francis to come and screened him and selected him to be a UNC candidate in the local government election. All the while, Mr. Francis was a Hefe in URP, and the same Ghost Gangs was running in URP, Mr. Bachelor. And then Kamla was a member of that administration. And she was prepared to turn a blind eye then, Mr. Bachelor. So what changed? What changed? Well, it can't be serious. You're not serious. Paris and others are under investigation by the TTPS, and files have been given to the DPP to investigate the CPEP. What CPEP corruption? Only quoting generic CPEP corruption. What CPEP corruption? Giving instructions to extend the contract so that 12,000 people could still have money in their pocket at the end of the fortnight or the end of the month. That's the corruption. That is the corruption. Extending contracts because they know the UNC would have been wicked and vindictive and do this very thing and send home these people. So to avoid that, you extended the contracts of both PNM and UNC contractors. So let's talk about what they send. The DPP cannot investigate anybody. The DPP's job is to review the file after the investigation is complete. But you see, all so software and could take chain up from Kamla and them. And they tell all that ship it up. But we send the file to the DPP and the DPP receive the file and receive the files. What files? What files? If no investigation has been done, there are no files to send. There's nothing for the DPP to review. The police have to go and investigate. The police have to go and interview, talk to people, get information, gather information, build a case, and then send the file to the DPP recommending charges. And if the DPP is of the unflinching view that a prima facie case has been made out and this could lead to a successful prosecution, he will give instructions to charge. But you come in and talk about corruption. But up to now, you ain't say a blasted word about the 20 million that the newspapers say was paid by criminal elements into Wayne Sturgis' campaign. Resulting in today, as Minister of Defense, he needs additional security that is adding money. Kamla complained about how many ministers in the former administration had security detail. And to save money for the state, you take away Stuart Young's security detail and Keith Rowley's security detail. But now you've had to provide a security detail for the Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, first time ever, for the Minister of Public Utilities, and for the Minister of Defense, a new ministry that you created. So that is additional monies that should have been going to poor people, has to be going towards providing vehicles and manpower to secure these people and their families. Not just them, their families too. So when these officers should be doing work, investigating crimes, they have to now be part of a security detail to drive around these ministers and their family. And when they go about their business, wherever it is there, they just sit down outside, park up in a vehicle, rock back in air condition and on their phone, on Facebook and on YouTube and on wherever, waiting until they complete their business. But she had a problem. Rowley, no threat on Rowley life, no threat on Church on life, and any other minister who had, they don't need that. But now ministers who never had security detail, all of a sudden their lives under threat. And you, Mr. Taxpayer, but Bachelor don't live here, so he can talk that rubbish. Where he live in, they are custom. Once you're a former president, you're accustomed getting all them security detail and so on. America have money, we don't have money. We need manpower. And when you're taking manpower out of service to just be security guards, bodyguards for ministers and family members, not just the ministers, I have a problem with that, Winston. But everything I say here today, you come tell me about CPEP and URP and turning a blind eye to corruption. And here it is. I spoke about, the first things I spoke about is this newspaper article that talks about an alleged $20 million coming from gangsters and criminal elements to fund the election campaign of the Minister of Defense. And you have said nothing on that. But want to come and tell me about corruption in CPEP. And that is not corruption. That's what's wrong with all the UNC supporters. Hypocrites. Ah, boy. David McIntyre. David say, I need protection from Zambo. Oh, gosh. Elizabeth Ramtahal says, all of a sudden, they real love Tobago. Games they on. Of course, every week, Fali meeting with somebody from the government. He couldn't have that relationship with the last administration. Right? Couldn't have that from the Prime Minister go down, everybody he warring with. But now, every week, this week, I think they're supposed to be having their stand your ground consultations in Tobago. The mouthpiece, David Thomas. He says so. Like apparently, he calling them shots. Something wrong with them, yes? If it is that Mr. Augustine had made 1/10 of the effort that he's making now to meet with government ministers and to treat with the issues affecting Tobago in the last 4 years, things would have been different. Instead of coming into office on an antagonistic posture and attacking the former prime minister, disrespecting the former prime minister every time. But now you're friends with the UNC. The PNM then give them no money for the last THA election. We need financing because another THA election coming up, and we need projects to be done, and we need money for this and money for that. So we had to play nice with the current government, right? We rubbing shoulders, everything good with the UNC and the TPP. So we officially, unofficially are part of the coalition of interests. Yes, I agree with you, Jennifer. Good luck. Bachelor is saying Faris putting friends and family names down to get government contracts with no experience at all. So the UNC is lying. That's what you're saying. I feel I should screenshot that. I will send it to Faris. I'm going to take a picture of it one time. Because you have court close. Let me take a picture of it and send it to my colleague. Yeah, you are court close. You know Faris putting down friends and family name for contract, eh? Faris family don't deal in those things, my friend. All right? They're not interested in no CPEP contract and the like. If you know Faris family, what they do, they're into real estate. Okay? UNC kept talking about that, how Faris family, they're government renting Faris family buildings and all that. Sure you're aware of that, right? Okay, so for you to insinuate that Faris putting on friends and family name for CPEP contract, are you serious? You serious about that, Winston? Really? Forget what, $20-something thousand a month? Deborah is saying no standing ground consultations on the corridor. Nope. None at all. Deborah. They're not going into any PNM constituencies. They're only going into UNC constituencies where everybody will come in and praise them and clap and say, yes, we support the legislation. Annette Smith is saying this country is in a hot mess with this UNC pickup side government. There's a reason, Winston, let me explain something to you, right? When you're in Parliament, you have parliamentary privilege. You are not a member of the Trinidad and Tobago Parliament. You are not an MP. You are not covered by parliamentary privilege. So if you repeat it, this is why they will say it in the Parliament and they will not come outside and say it. Because if they come outside and say it, they will be sued. So when you who don't have the cover of parliamentary privilege say it, you are subject to be sued. So with all your court closed, make sure you get it ready. God, how many times? Jeez and ages. Folks, it's got up past 5. Michelle, yes. This work requires patience, and these people help me to build that patience. Oh gosh. This next one comes. So you admitted that's why Rowley used Parliament so much. Anything Dr. Rowley said inside a Parliament, he had no problem saying it outside. Apparently, you never used to listen to Dr. Rowley. Okay? You understand? He had no problems repeating what he said outside. Because as chairman of the National Security Council, he have information that he can back up. All right? So, Dr. Rowley never used to abuse parliamentary privilege. Because when he talked about Emailgate in the Parliament, he came outside and he spoke about it outside too. So I challenge you, Caribbean soul, to tell me one thing Dr. Rowley said in the Parliament that he didn't repeat outside. And I bet you can't. You're telling me to stop lying. Why are you here? You see, you all have been indoctrinated in the lies by the party that you support. I mean, come on, and you'll keep attacking PNM and attacking PNM, but your party has no substance, nothing to offer. You come here when you talk about PNM and what the PNM do. Come and tell me, give me a list of 4 or 5 things that your government has done in the past 3.5, 4 months that you could point to and say, right, look, they do something to help the country. Tell me 2 things that they have done on their own initiative, not things that the PNM started that they completed and then come and say, try and take it as if it's their own. You can't even do that. And that was your problem. 4 months in office, they have nothing to show, nothing for you, the blind sycophantic supporters to come here and boast and say, hey, we do this and we do that. By this time in 2016, PNM people could say things that the government did, or they can't do nothing what they could say of substance that they do. Miss me with that nonsense. None of them could come here and point to anything. Nothing. What he praising what? Oh, Lord. You want me to tell you one of the things? You want me to tell you what the PNM did? One thing? The administration that you support today, between 2010 to 2015, you know what they did? In an attempt to generate and to encourage foreign direct investment, so they say, and to encourage foreign energy companies to come to Trinidad and Tobago and to drill for oil and gas. They gave them sweetheart deals and sweetheart contracts. All right? You could come and drill for oil and gas, and you could, if you find oil and gas and you sell it, or even with the oil and gas projects that you currently have in place, whatever money you spend to drill and to do seismic research on anything to try and find new oil and gas, you could write off that expense against your tax liability. So if you have wells operating in Trinidad and Tobago now that making money, and it's supposed to pay us taxes and royalties from the sale of those hydrocarbons, but you decide to drill new wells and so on, and you bid for new acreage and you're doing research to try and find new oil and gas, whatever money you spend there, instead of paying us these taxes and royalties on existing wells, you could write that off and pay no taxes until, was it 2027? We're in 2025. Mr. Caribbean Soul. That cost us billions of dollars in revenue. And what this administration did when the last administration did when they came in, they imposed a 12.5% royalty. So the money, the leakages, the revenue that was leaking through the sweetheart deals and concessions that the administration between 2010 to 2015 gave, right? the last administration imposed a 12.5% royalty so that we were able to get billions of dollars in revenue that we would not have gotten because of that reckless decision that they made. So that you asked me for one. That is just one of the things that they did. Want me to tell you what else they did? They decided to create a Ministry of Youth Development and National Service because they realized that every time the diversification conversation comes up, the two things we talk about is agriculture and tourism. And they made one of their flagship programs under that ministry, the Youth in Agriculture Homestead Program, where they sought to build a cadre of young farmers, young agricultural practitioners. They sought to make agriculture sexy again for the next generation because they realized the majority of people who are involved in agriculture today are mostly senior citizens, the last generation. And they needed to create an incentive to create a new generation of farmers. And they did that. So much so that almost 500 young people graduated from that program, ready, willing, and able to go into agriculture. That's what they did. They weren't thinking for today or this 5 years. They're thinking down the road. Because if we bring in these people from as young as 18 and 19, and they decide to remain in agriculture for the long haul, we're looking at these people going to be in agriculture for at least the next 30, 40 years. So we're looking to develop agriculture for 40 years down the road. And we're not just going to give them training and tell them, all right, go and do something. No. We're giving them the training, we're giving them the land, we're giving them money, we're giving them a house to start. Some of them who didn't get through to that program, they got through in the Shade House program. What they're doing? Down in Shagaramas, the lands that the administration that you supported between 2010 to 2015 gave away to one member of the 1% to plant onions for export. That the last administration took back 50 acres. Well, those 50 acres were put under cultivation. So those persons who didn't have land, but who wanted to get into agriculture could use it and to grow their crops and to be able to generate an income. Right? And they pay taxes from that. And some of them were looking to get into the export business. What did your government do? They came in and they shut down the ministry. So a whole cadre of future farmers, agriculture practitioners are now in abeyance. Sit down home wondering what next. What new career could they go into? Right? So you stifling the next generation of agriculture and farmers. Just take that away from them. Pull the rug out from under them. You feel like you don't trust any other program again to say, no, I went through that already. And look what can happen. You feel like you're going to waste another 2 years of my life to think, and then next thing another administration come in and they pull that, forget that. You know how difficult it is to get young people to want to go into agriculture? I'm not just digging land and showing them all of the different ways and means that they could get into agriculture. These people excited and you took that away from them. It was this administration that created incentives. The manufacturing sector grew under the last administration, in case you didn't know. So that the revenue generated for this country under the manufacturing sector is the highest it's been in years. Right? Because of incentives that this administration would have provided for them. This administration, that was providing money, funding, seed funding for people to start businesses. When you start a business, you make money, you pay taxes to the government. That generates income. But all they only figure out income could only come from abroad. They generate income internally too. Because when people gainfully employed, they pay taxes. They buy stuff that has VAT on it. They buy stuff that has taxes. Yeah. So you generate internal domestic income, not only foreign. Okay? But you all are so myopic, can't see beyond your nose, and you don't understand that. So they only figure, the government is doing nothing to generate foreign exchange, and then doing nothing to generate foreign exchange, as if foreign exchange is the only way the government can generate income. You're not serious. The information that was said in Parliament and was not disputed by Faris in Parliament. Okay, so you want Faris to dispute. What's the point of disputing in Parliament? What's the point? You are not a parliamentarian, and clearly politics is not your strong suit, Winston. When somebody says something in Parliament, you don't defend it in Parliament. What you do, you encourage them to come and say it outside. And if they can't come out and say it outside, then you know they're a damn blasted liar. Because if it's true and you have the evidence, you could come outside and say it and run the risk of being sued. So when you make allegations against me in the parliament, I don't have to defend. Or like I say, well, come outside and say it now. If you're named man, come outside. And if you don't come outside and say it, then you have told the world you're a damn liar. You have no evidence. You're just saying things under the cover of parliamentary privilege. But if you had evidence that you could stand up in the court of law and you could use to defend yourself against a lawsuit, you would come outside and say, you know nothing about how politics works. All right? So think now. You don't come in parliament and think and try and defend yourself. Let man say what they want to say in the parliament. I want you to come outside and say it. That is where it matters. So I ain't coming in the parliament to defend myself and say that's not true. Come outside, as Coleman would say. Your name, man, come outside and say it. And if you can't do that, then you're a liar. Come now, Mister. Wasting my time. Oh Lord, they're brutal. Cheryl Whitehall says these trolls will have a life. The people win, but they're so full of hate. They love the lies and racist ways. So no matter how much facts you give them, they would come here to upset you. Exactly. I mean, you don't understand how Trinidad and Tobago politics works. I know he says he lives outside part-time and he lives here part-time. Apparently, he spends more time outside and here. See, the privileges that you all have in the United States, you don't have it here, my friend. Right? In the US, they say all kind of thing about people and whatnot and stuff. And here, Trinidad is different. Okay? If you said it in Parliament, come outside and say it if it's true. So I could sue you, so I could send you a pre-action protocol letter. If you only want to stay you're only ducking and hiding in the parliamentary chamber, well, you're privileged. So I can't do nothing. So I'm going to bother to try and fight that down. You could say what the hell you want. Say what you want inside. The minute you come outside, bust your throat. So when you want to take up drink, Mr. Bachelor, when you want to drink, as they say, take what is medicine for other people fever, you say it outside. You have court closed. They have parliamentary privilege. Them never tell you. Because what happened with Julia Davy getting sued by Rural Munilal when the thing was going around about him being one of the richest men in Trinidad and whatnot, and she wrote an article about it. And he sued her. And he win? All right. Okay. Just putting that out there. So you give yourself liberty. You don't have the privilege that they have. You come out here and you make statements for them. They may come to your rescue, them don't know you. You're on your own with that one. Right? And when you say things in the public domain, all of a sudden you change your tune. You want to talk about Paris no more here. The Forex was cut in half under the PNM from 10 to 5 billion. That's why the PNM lost, and the straw that broke the camel's back is when the PNM tried to take the people's pensions away. What pension PNM tried to take away? You see, folks, let me just deal with this last thing and then I bust now because, as I said, I do some lecturing, so that's why I have patience, right? And sometimes I just want to believe that Mr. Bachelor is genuinely ignorant of the facts and wants to learn. That's why I entertain him, right? So let me tell you. The government didn't want to take away any pensions, all right? There was a bill where there was a clause that said new applicants, new persons who were seeking to apply for pension, if they had $25,000 or more in savings, that then they would not qualify. It had nothing to do with people existing pensioners. Their pensions were not, you could only take away something from somebody if they have it already. So the existing pensioners were not in any jeopardy. No, it was never said that they were going to take away these people's pensions. All right? It was a proposal going forward for new applicants. And the clause was repealed and then the bill lapsed because Parliament was prorogued. And with respect to this thing about the Forex was cut in half under the PNM from 10 to 5 billion, and that's why the PNM lost. Well, if that is why the PNM lost, then Crapo smoked the pipe of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Because clearly, Mr. Bachelor, you have not been following, again, governance in Trinidad and Tobago. Why was the forex cut in half? Because energy prices fell, the country's production of oil and gas fell, and therefore our revenue, or what we call our economic rents from the energy sector, fell. How does the government build its foreign reserves? When we sell oil and we sell gas and we earn foreign exchange, part of that goes to the country's foreign reserves, because the law requires these energy companies to pay their tax liabilities in US dollars. They're allowed to pay a certain amount in TT dollars, which they could convert the US to be able to pay their local expenses and so on, right? And so a portion of that, they can now convert it and pay in TT dollars. But the majority of it has to be paid in US dollars, which would go to the country's foreign reserves. But if your receipts of economic rents is diminished because we're selling less oil, we're selling less gas because we are an aging province, we're not producing as much as we were before, and the prices have fallen, it's not as high as it was between 2010 to 2015. If you're taking in less foreign exchange, and then remittances have also fallen, okay, and demand for US has gone up, Mr. Bachelor, because the banks decided that they wanted to give everybody and their dog credit cards. When you use your credit card to make overseas purchases, whether you travel abroad and you use your card or you shop online, the banks have to find the US dollars to settle those liabilities, right? Because we can't pay. If you decide to go and you pay, you buy something on Amazon, Amazon does not accept TT currency, only US currency. So the banks in Trinidad and Tobago who gave you your credit card have to find the US to pay Amazon in US dollars. So all of that impacts. The demand has gone up. More people with credit cards, people are traveling more because it's a little cheaper now to travel. So they're going all over, all who get their US, as I say, their visa, and they want to travel, and they use their credit card, and they spend, and they spend, and they spend. And all of these charges must be settled in US dollars. So supply fell, demand went up, and what happened, Winston? The government had a choice. Where can we get this scarce foreign exchange from to be able to give it to the banks to satisfy this demand? Well, we don't have a magic wand to make more oil and more gas. We are price takers, not price makers to charge for oil and gas, or how much we're selling our oil and gas for. So the alternative was to increase supply. The government had to draw down on the foreign exchange reserves and give it to the banks so the banks could sell it to the people who want it. The alternative was for the government to say, we leave in the foreign exchange reserves as is because we just want to watch it. It's just there. And we like saying we have 10 billion and 12 billion in foreign exchange reserves. You know, like some people when they have plenty money in the bank and they just like to go and put the card and do a balance check because they just want to watch the slip and see I have plenty money in the bank and they're not spending it. That is like somebody having $100,000 in the bank and they get a light bill that comes that says due for disconnection. And they allow the electricity to be disconnected because they don't want the balance to fall below 100,000. So the money there, but I'm not using it because I just want to watch it. So the mortgage had to pay, but I ain't paying it because I like to see my balance high. So they repossess your house, but you have money in the bank to pay the mortgage. They repossess your car because you ain't paying the loan because you just like to see your bank balance going up. That is what you are advocating. The government says we have the foreign exchange reserves there. Let us draw down on it, sell it to the commercial banks so they could provide and treat with some of the supply. If we didn't do that, what would happen? You treat with demand another way. How do you temper demand? By causing the price to go up. Devaluation. Okay? So you make it more expensive to purchase US dollars, and then what? So if people could, whereas before, a man could afford 100 US and then the price of the US goes up, the valuation, TT dollar, value of the TT dollar falls against, right? Then what happens? Becomes more expensive. So the man who could have buy 100 US could only now buy 75. So demand goes down. He cannot demand as much as he used to before because it's more expensive and he doesn't have the extra money to buy the difference. So it was either you use the foreign exchange, the foreign reserves, to shore up supply, or you leave it there and watch it and admire it as the UNC wanted to do and cause the TT dollar, a devaluation of the TT dollar, make it more expensive to buy US, and then what happens? Everything becomes more expensive. So all of a sudden, the food import bill goes from 7 billion TT to 12 billion TT. All of a sudden, the price of cars goes up. All of a sudden, the price of everything that we import goes up. Cost of living increases exponentially, and you impose hardships on the citizenry. That is why, Winston, despite all of the complaints from the now government former opposition, when they were in opposition about how the government was depleting the foreign exchange reserves, for the first time, the foreign exchange reserves have now fallen under 5 billion. When this last administration demitted office, it was over 5 billion. It is now under 5 billion. You have anything to say about that, Winston? PNM didn't do that. The PNM didn't put it under 5 billion. So how it fall below 5 billion in the last 4 months, Winston? Dr. Rowley wasn't there. Stuart Young wasn't there. The PNM hasn't been in office. And yet still it continues to fall. Explain that to me now, Winston. Right. So by your logic, next election called UNC is supposed to lose because they have not been able to increase. In fact, we are in a worse off position today than we were when the PNM was in office. And if you think this Exxon Mobil agreement that they signed, the production sharing contract, that isn't going to yield any money for quite some years to come, if at all, if they find any kind of carbon, any kind of fuels. All right. The pension bill was changed when there was an uproar by the people. She went back in Parliament and said it was a mistake. It was enough for old people to vote against the PNM. I saw it live. No, you did not see it live. You did well. I don't know what you think you saw and what you saw live. All right. There was a press conference with Donna Cox and the then Attorney General. All right, Winston? And I just explained to you how the pension bill worked. Okay? That's because the UNC deceived the people and told them that the government was going to take away their pension. I explained to you, nobody who is currently on pension was under any threat of losing their pension. Okay? The system in Trinidad, it's means tested. So there was no threat. But that is what they convinced the senior citizens. And the senior citizens didn't vote for the UNC. They chose not to vote because most of them, a lot of them, vote PNM. In my own constituency, many of them withheld their vote because they were fooled by the UNC. They didn't vote for the UNC. Okay? So even with all their lies, they still couldn't convince people to support them. Blessed one says you cannot whisper wisdom in a foolish man's ear. So true. As they always say, don't argue with fools because they'll beat you with experience. And today, all the fools have come out. Now I see Caribbean Soul Switch. Donna Cox is a nice girl for you. Dominic, she's like a scarecrow. Okay. Okay then. Realize you can't engage me in intellectual conversation, so now you come with rubbish. Hey, boy. Yeah, I feel so sad. I just need to start charging Winston for airtime. Jeez, Winston, you're not listening, oh gosh. Go and get a Q-tip and clean your ears. You're talking about if you had over $25,000 in your account, the PNM was going to remove these people. Remove which people? I told you, the clause basically was saying that new persons who were coming to apply, who never had pension before and were now coming to apply for pension, that clause was stating that if the person had $25,000 or more, that they would not qualify for the pension. Not existing, new applicants. You see, like how you probably not receiving pension now, and when you're ready to apply for pension, they tell you, well, okay, you're going to qualify because you have X amount of money in your account. That is what it is. But if you are already receiving pension, they're not going to come and tell you, well, hey, you're receiving pension, bring your you need to bring your bank statement so we can see how much money you have in your account. If you're saving money from your pension, how the hell they will come and take away your pension for saving pension money? That making any sense to you? Come on. That was meant for people who they know receiving income elsewhere and who just, it have some people as Donna once said, who want to double dip. So they know they're getting pension from, they have the personal pension they're getting from their former employer. They probably have a little business on the side that they're getting money from. They collecting a pension from, they had a personal annuity when they were working, they were paying for years, and now they're receiving money. And it's just because somebody tell them, like, go and apply for the pension now. You know, and see if they get through. They don't really need it because they have income. Some of them have property renting, 2 and 3 apartments they're renting and collecting rental income. But it's just greedy, they're greedy. Well, if I get it, let me try and see if I get through. That is what the government was trying to prevent. Those persons, some of them who put in the income in the daughter name and in the son bank account and all this kind of thing and not in their own. So when they go to the bank, they will show, well, look, my bank statement, they see I have no money, I broke, I don't get nothing. But every month, your tenants, 2 and 3 tenants come in and drop in the rent for you. Right? And you're holding the cash home. So there's no record of it anyway. And then you could go and apply for the government pension. This is why when you come to, they ask you to see your passport. Every so much times, where have you been? If you're traveling, if you could afford every 6 months to run up to the United States for 3 weeks and a month, then you don't need the pension. You do not add up. Come on now, man. Wall Street is our next one, another club. Folks, it is 5:40. All right, let me go and, if I go to continue to entertain Winston and them, you know, I like to teach, you know, but oh God. Some people are feeling like altar today. Oh gosh. Yeah, I feel like altar today. Rosalind Doris saying just like those students who keep back our whole class because they are slow learners. Oh gosh, but where is Sir Winston and Caribbean Soul to special ed? Folks, we will chat again soon. I'm not committed myself to any day during the week, but next week Sunday, as of now, I think whatever I have will be in the afternoon, so I shouldn't have a problem coming on in the morning. If not Saturday, I may be able to. I was planning to come on yesterday too, but my day ended up getting a little screwed up. So yeah. But anyway, we will chat soon. So enjoy the rest of your weekend. Make the rest of your Sunday. If you're going up to the Parang, should be good. No more people will be calling me just now to find out when I'm coming up. But yeah. So if you have time and you're looking for something to do with the family, head up the road now. Live bands, free of charge. I think they might have food on sale or whatever. So Christmas in August, you don't have any Independence Parade. So take advantage of whatever it is again. All right? So we will chat soon. To Winston and Caribbean Soul. Yeah. Thanks for bad talking UNCS. PNM would never pick you to join their party. Well, if you say so, at the end of the day, I'm a member of parliament. So if bad talking the UNC is what get me there, well, I'll go tell you. And you here? Are you listening for the last 3 hours? Listening to your UNC supporter, but listening to a PNM man bad talking your party for 3 hours. It says something. I'm good at what I do. So have a good one, Caribbean Soul and Winston. Till next time.